Summon Sign is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 50 of Summon Sign, Last Stand Media's weekly in-depth game discussion podcast. I am your host, as always, Brad Ellison. Joining me this week, we have Mr. Matty Plays. Matty, what's up, dude?
Doing great, man. It's nice and rainy outside, and I got that like gamer emotional state where when you see rain, you're in an infinitely better mood. So feeling good today to start things off. Excited to be here. Lot coming out, so we have a lot to talk about.
Yeah, you've been busy, Matty. I know.
Yeah.
And also, we have Jason Polansky back once again. Good to see you, my friend. This is the third time I believe you're on the show.
Yeah, third time. This is the hat trick. Thank you for having me back on. Very excited about this one. Excited to be here with Mr. Matty for a very specific reason, which looking at this rundown will be later on in the show.
Yeah, you got some interesting games, bro. I saw your rundown. I was like, oh, we have a lot to talk about.
Oh,
yes.
We're gonna have some fun.
Yes,
we're gonna have some fun.
He requested you specifically, Matty.
Oh, all right. Okay. All right, dude. I'm excited. Let's go.
Yeah.
Jason, before, just in case anyone doesn't know, producer at Atari. So that just correct your title there?
Yeah, close enough. It's what I do. I always like default to being a producer. It's easier. So yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay, yeah. But yes.
You got to wear many hats.
Bloods. Yes.
Yeah,
I think, yeah.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Also, the official title is longer, and it's fine.
Yeah.
Matty, your weather makes me jealous. That nice rainy you're talking about there.
Yeah.
Man.
Dude, it was like a drought here for a while. It was like I remember in the start of fall, like it was just perfect weather, like out of a storybook. Like it was just perfect, just no clouds in the sky. Weather was just right. You could wear whatever you want, and then it was like that for 3 weeks straight. And it started to feel a little like Groundhog's Day syndrome. Like, oh, the weather just hasn't changed. Then, despite me living here in the Northeast, I was starting to get like wildfire warnings, and I was like sometimes I would step out of my house and I would smell campfire. It got really bad. So I'm happy that it's starting to rain and more inclement weather is kicking in. It got too nice for too long. So I got a little bit of that Cali lifestyle here in Connecticut, which was nice.
Yeah. Jason, you're in New York City, right?
Yeah.
How's it there right now? How's the weather?
Same. Our weather would be about the same between Matty and I. So yeah, it's a little drizzly. Started doing that. I am less receptive of it when I gotta go outside to get lunch and walk a bit to get to the office, go home, that kind of thing. But would have liked this rain yesterday when I was on the final sprint of Ease 10. But hey, you know what? I could game on a nice day too. I don't need excuses.
That's
all right. But fortunately, the weather today is looking good where it should stop by the time I leave. And that's really all that matters. That said, it's like the last few years, like as things are getting warmer, right? So we don't get as much snow anymore. So every time it will have freezing days. It was freezing last week during some days. And now today, it's going to rain. God, why can't it be snow? I love the snow. I could brush off the snow. Rain, need to have an umbrella. It makes you soggy. I don't like it.
It's so funny you mentioned like I don't need an excuse, when it comes to gaming during nice weather. Because I told this story before, but I always remember in high school saying to a guy who was like the captain of the hockey team, like just famous last words for me. I was like, yeah, I love when it rains. Like it's a good excuse to like play some games. And he's like, what's the difference for you? And I was like, you're right. I was like, it was just facts. I was like, yeah, you're right. Like it could be fucking perfect weather outside in high school and my ass was inside.
You just be like, it's just more cozy. That's all.
Yeah, basically. But at that point, I was just like, yeah, what I said was pretty indefensible.
No, because here's the thing. It is the same, but you feel guilty. And that's the truth.
Yeah, but I can't even act like at that time in my life I was feeling really guilty. It's like he was a friend of mine, so it wasn't like offensive. It was just he was spitting facts. I was just like, yeah, you're right. Be inside either way. It wasn't until like my end of my junior year of high school I really started to actually socialize. So I think that was sophomore year. So he was definitely right on the money.
Did you do anything like outside. Like Matty, I remember growing up, like me and my friends always like skateboarded and stuff like that. So it was a big excuse for us to be outside a lot.
Yeah, I skated for a while. I skated into my freshman year of high school, and then I really got into golf. And I remember trying out for the golf team, and I was gonna, yeah. I don't know if I ever told this story. It's mad funny.
I've never heard this.
So I got the inside scoop that I was gonna make the golf team if on the last day of tryouts I continued to do well. Now, my mom had been the one who encouraged me to just go out and do this because I was like at home just gaming a lot. So she was doing what mothers do and just like, hey, go fucking do something, would you? And so on the last day of trials, when I heard that, I was like, well, I don't really want to do this like every week. So what do? I just fucking throw the last day on the course.
No,
I just throw. And so I put up a horrible score. Like when the teacher was watching, just send this thing into the woods. Like I was playing the worst game of golf deliberately so that I didn't make the team, and I didn't. So yeah, I got to chill and play some more games. But like when it came to other outdoor activities, it really wasn't until like I had just an epiphany in like junior year of high school. I was like, I need to go do something. Like I need to get out of my shell more. There was not like this one moment that happened, but then I just started playing everything. Really hockey though. That was what got me out the most. Like late junior year of high school, early senior year, I started playing hockey. That was my main outdoor activity. But for a while, it was skateboarding. You're right. That was my favorite. I was never a daredevil though, so like I don't think I was built for skateboarding as much as I loved it.
Yeah, certainly not now. I think about skateboarding sometimes. I'm just like, dude, if I fall now, it's gonna like really mess me up.
Bro, I've just been sitting and working a decent amount, so my lower back hurts, and I'm like, imagine if I was just like a skater and I just like ate shit. Like I just fell, just like I was like my poor body would just be like, nope, we're never doing this again.
It's the problem with concrete. Concrete sucks. It's too hard. It could get hot in the summertime.
Yeah.
You know, with the sun blazing. You know, I'll play hockey. I still play hockey. I play like at least 3 times a week. Nice. And the beauty is, you know, it's cold. So it's like you fall, it's cold. You got like an ice pack right there. It's fantastic.
That's true. Yeah.
Do you only play ice, Jason? Hockey. I think I've asked you this before.
Yeah, I only play ice. I started when I was a kid, like we're talking 5, 6. I played roller because that was the only real game in town. And then I started playing ice by the time I was like 8 or so. And now I can rollerblade, but it's really difficult because it's just different. You can't stop. You have to do like this weird kind of half circle. But there is also like a big social scene in New York around ball hockey. And that's just like you're on foot. Okay. Yeah. I got invited to play by a buddy of mine. He got all into that. He actually left our ice team to play ball hockey. And I was so mad because he was one of our good players. And so I started playing. So I played this one game and I was awful because I'm holding a stick and my brain is just confused.
Yeah, like you're supposed to be moving when you're standing still.
Yeah,
really.
Why can't I move? And then the ball is constantly bouncing, and you have no control. You can't do anything. It's the worst. I can't stand it.
I was awful at that too.
Yeah, it's terrible. So ice all day. Yeah, it's the best.
That's awesome.
And also, actually, it's fun you mentioned the golf thing because I actually did play golf in high school throughout. Like I didn't actually get my letter.
Yeah, you're the quintessential hockey player then, right? Like golf in the off season.
I didn't make the hockey team, but I did make the golf team. And I was arguably way worse at golf when I tried out for that team, but our hockey team was actually awesome. But then I had a similar, I kind of like went in reverse where I didn't make the team. And then I saw those guys running before school every day on the track. It's like, thank God I didn't make that team. That looks terrible. But since I got back into ice hockey, I just completely stopped playing golf and lost interest.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, I played roller hockey for like 10 years, I think, like that. I mean, we have ice hockey here, but you had to drive pretty far for it, and it's expensive. Of course, you know, it does not snow here or anything like that, so we had to do what we did. But man,
probably it was insane in Cali.
Yes, it was. All right, before we get into what we're talking about or what we've been playing, all that kind of stuff, please check us out on patreon.com/laststandmedia if you'd like to support us. You can get early access to this show, all of our other shows like the Finding Duke or Xbox podcast that Matty hosts. It's good. Check it out. So please consider supporting us. We greatly appreciate it. Also, leave us a rating on whatever podcast service you use, comment, like all that YouTube stuff. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Oh, Brad, quick question.
Yes.
Do you have my phone number?
Yes.
Okay, so that was you who texted me. I was just making sure.
Yeah. Who else is going to text you about summon sign?
I didn't know if it was a threat. I just get a text from a random number. It says summon sign time. It's like, is someone outside my house?
Yeah.
Oh,
it's calling
man.
with a sniper rifle.
No, it's one of those random random one-off texts that are trying to get you to talk, and then what are they called, like pig slaughtering or something like that.
Yes.
I got the best one today. I'm just going to read this real quick. It said, "Long time no see, my friend. How are you? Are the jobs convenient?"
Yeah, that makes sense.
The jobs convenient?
Don't even know what AI would think that meant.
I'm just glad election season's done, because I had so many, because I lived in New York and moved to Connecticut, so I had all the local politicians texting me, like just like send those mass texts out, like, we need to beat X, Y, and Z, and like just sending these novel texts. I deleted so many on election day. It was crazy.
Yeah, it's over. No more.
The spam. Get that
out
of my mailbox.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, this is from Wesley. Hey, Summoners. I know Matty has been interested in Path of Exile 2, which has been popping off this weekend. Brad and Jason, are either of you going to try this out? I didn't play PoE 1, but I'm 10 hours into PoE 2 and absolutely loving it. Thanks. Any interest, Jason?
I'm like, interest is a weird word. Interest, yes. Probability of me actually playing is like near zero. Let's be real.
Okay.
It's on consoles, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, this is one of those. I mean, we'll get into a lot of this later when I talk about one of my games, but it's like playing that when I haven't even played Diablo 4, and that's been installed on my Xbox for the longest time. And I'm gonna play Indiana Jones next. I can't wait for that. Like, I haven't really got into a game like this in a while, but the buzz I'm hearing about it makes it sound kind of interesting. And, so maybe, but highly unlikely. Let me put it that way.
Gotcha. I have interest in it. I do want to play. I played a little bit of the first game. Is good. You need to do, in my opinion, I don't know what it's like in 2, but in the first game, I feel like you need to do homework to be able to play the game. You need to study up on the game a lot because it's very complicated. So I'm curious to see how that carries over into 2. But yeah, it looks awesome. I definitely want to check it out. Just when I'm not playing a million things, but I think that will never happen.
Yeah. These are also the kind of games that I love to play portably. Like, I would love to play that on a Switch. Definitely not on Switch. And I guess you could play it on Steam Deck, but Steam Deck is what I would call like borderline portable. It's not, I'm not pulling out a Steam Deck on a subway.
Right, yeah.
That's so true. At first I was confused by what you meant. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah, it's huge. It's expensive. Like, I see guys on the train with the whole computers, like coding and writing stuff. Like, this is insane. The Switch is as big as I go when I'm pulling that out on a train.
I miss the days where a handheld actually fit into your pocket. That was nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Seriously.
man. I had Game Boy SP in high school. The thing was the best. I love that thing, man.
I guess the natural evolution of technology is always to get smaller, right? And more efficient. So maybe we'll get back to that in like, 10, 15 years as like handheld technology evolves. I would love that, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it seems like all handhelds are big now. All of them.
Yeah.
And there's like the Switch 2 is rumored to be even like a little larger than the normal Switch. So
it makes you wonder if like the studies they're doing are showing that people just use handhelds in their house more than anything, right? Like,
yeah, probably.
Just not like actually taking them on the go. Because I'm trying to remember what video it was, but the top comment was like some guy just like, who the fuck actually like takes these big ass handhelds out of their house? And some people were like, yeah, like I don't see anyone doing it. Yeah, I mean, I take my Switch with me, bro. Like, I'll take my Switch with me, but anything else, because Switch is like lightweight, right? Like, technically, they're kind of similar size, the Switch and the Steam Deck, but the Steam Deck like is a hulking piece of technology, even with the carrying case.
So this is an interesting thing. If you have the original Steam Deck came in this crazy ass case, and that's like the case it always comes in, right? When you buy it, that is literally the size of 3 Switches in its case stacked on top of each other. It takes up an insane amount of space. However, when they release the OLED Steam Deck, the outside case comes out, and there is a more reasonably sized small case on the inside, and that now is only 2 Switches high. So they made it infinitely more travelable with the OLED just by that case alone. So there's a little fun fact. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll see what Xboxes looks like in the future and PlayStation. So it's going to be interesting. The handheld wars are coming back. Wow.
So hyped.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
For the amount I travel, for the amount I ride the train, amount I'm on the buses, like I'll take out the Steam Deck on an express bus, but not the train.
Yeah. All right, boys, let's talk about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I put down the wrong thing for Dustin. The timestamp. There you go, Dustin. Okay. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Matty, you reviewed this. You've been playing it. Before we get your thoughts, let's hear from Samurai Costanza. What's up, gentlemen? Matty, I'd love to hear how true to the film's Indiana Jones feels to play. Does it strike a nice balance between archaeology puzzles and large, exciting set pieces like the airfield fist fight in Raiders or the tank sequence from The Last Crusade? I love those first 3 movies to death and really hope this game is awesome. Right,
Matty, I to be transparent, I watched all 3 movies for the first time like a couple weeks ago. I watched them all back to back to back, and I loved each of them so much. I was like actually very mad with myself. I was like, what? Like only a few movies that brought that feeling out of me. I was like, why'd you wait so long, Matt? You're so stupid. But I adored them. And honestly, it was a really special experience to be able to do all of that and then jump into a game that is, to answer your question, Samurai, so true to the films. It just feels like true diehard fans who have a lot of passion for Indiana Jones really just made the type of game they wanted to make. I really appreciate, some people feel this game needed to be third person. I am still, and obviously after playing it, a big defender of the choice to go first person. It adds so much personality to the game. I think the biggest thing that people will walk away from before I fully answer the question, Samurai, about Indiana Jones is just in a sea of like tie-in games and licensed games and whatnot. This game is not like any of those. Like usually, the boxes they check, like third person, over the shoulder. It's usually written a certain way. And you very rarely get like a Guardians of the Galaxy moment where it just kind of surprises you. Guardians of the Galaxy, I think many people anticipated like more of just a lighthearted adventure. It ended up being one of the best written games that came out last generation, just by its exciting gameplay. And again, the storytelling and character development was really good. And it became way more heartfelt than I think anyone anticipated. Then you get something like this where I think the heartfelt writing is there, although it comes in bursts. I would say not everything's fantastic on that front, but it comes in bursts. But that sort of first person exploration, it reminds me of like Dishonored. It reminds me of like a Bethesda Game Studios game in a way, like just that sort of seeing a temple in the distance and wandering to it, and then the level design of like Arcane, where I'm like sneaking around trying to find the way in, and once I get in there, solving puzzles, and none of these puzzles are really formulaic is what I loved about the game. They're really intuitive and thoughtful. The most common formula you'll see is deciphering codes. Like there'll be like a 4-digit code on like a chest or a case or a safe, and to get to that code, you need to do a separate puzzle. And most times it's like you doing like a lot of mental gymnastics. The example I used in my review is like playing a game of like Makiek, and you're like moving this like piece on the board. It's kind of like chess a little bit. You're moving this piece around on the board, and based on where you eliminate these pieces gives you your code. Some of these are real brain busters though, and so even though you end up getting a code at the end of it all, that's the most frequent one you'll see. The way you engage with it, I think, is really well done, where I'm never doing the same sort of like, oh, I remember how I approached puzzle A, and that means I'm going to have to approach it this way again. No 2 puzzles really felt the same to me. And as someone who's not big on puzzles, I just want to encourage people that this isn't I was totally head over heels for it. Like, it's just not your typical puzzle game where it has a perfect balance of like making sure you don't have the solution immediately, or when you think you have that easy solution, you're probably wrong, but not having you stare at your screen blankly for a while. And if you do get stuck, the game doesn't spit out any sort of hints at you at all, especially in the side content. When you're going around doing the game's mysteries, when you're doing the game's discoveries, there is no sort of like, Indy, you should look up there. Like, the game just totally lets you do your thing. To some people, maybe like to their detriment, but I think it's in a day and age where AAA games are always pointing you at what to do. Like, there's no painting, marking like, hey, look here, it's covered in yellow, or hey, Indy, please look at this. Like, there's no call outs whatsoever, or him muttering to himself. So it really trusts your intelligence. And it kind of, with that combined with first person, I feel like it just kind of brings that level of like, you are Indiana Jones, which is why I think it's like true to the films. Of course, you're doing the things you'd expect Andy to be doing, but it feels like one giant movie in how it's also produced. And if you do a lot of the side content, then those larger set pieces you're talking about don't happen as frequently, because most of the side content is like exploring tombs, dungeons, and building out these characters more. But if you're just mainlining the story, that balance between the slow and the high action moments is really like a great back and forth. It just depends on how much you go into that side content. But I was just, again, really impressed with the game from top to bottom. There's moments where you're like picking up a gun and it's kind of turning into just a big first person shooter with explosions going off. And then like next year, you're in like a temple moving pieces around on like this pressure plate to kind of like rotate these pillars and to open a secret door. So yeah, there's just a lot to this game, but it is truly an Indiana Jones adventure. And what's really interesting, as someone who, of course, has like covered Todd Howard's games for a while, to kind of know about him as a person, like, oh, this guy's favorite movie ever is Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I mean, from the first, like the beginning of the game literally is Raiders. Like it is straight up a 1-to-1 recreation of that. So to see that moment of like, wow, they really love it. And to see how the story builds in that gap basically between Last Crusade and Raiders of like, what was Indy going through? What was he feeling after what happened between him and Marion? Like, you know, what is that relationship like at this point in the storyline? Like those sorts of things kind of come up, and kudos to the writers, because when you really think about it, every Indiana Jones movie, even the newer ones, is like 2.5 hours max. Like you really don't get a lot of time with this character. And when he is on screen, it's more fun and adventurous and entertaining. So to make a game that's this big, right? Like you can put 30 plus hours into this game if you're doing everything, and to like dip into the things like, oh, Indy's afraid of snakes, but still keep him like interesting and not just going into the same old tropes over and over. I was really impressed. with the game from top to bottom. It's a top 3 game of the year for me. Like I really loved it. Yeah. When I was like shaking out my list the other night, you know, because we're getting to that point where it's time for me to make my game of the year list, I was like, yo, this game, like I was looking at everything else. I was like, this is like one of my favorites. Cause I also know me. I was like, I'm going to be talking about this and referencing this for years. Like just because we don't get Dishonored style games enough. So yes, it's very true to the films, but it's also just like an incredible experience that's so different from other licensed products that I really appreciate it for what it is in that pocket as well. So hopefully that answers your question, Samurai, but I love it. It's a great game.
When you say Dishonored, like, what do you mean exactly? Are the levels, I guess, not linear? You're saying there's like side quests, or are they like big open areas and you kind of just go through them? Like Dishonored had levels, but it was like, they're pretty big. You can actually go through a lot of them and explore it. So it's set up exactly like that.
Yeah. Think of like, if anyone out there has played Dishonored 2, think of Karnaca, or think of Dunwall and Dishonored 1, where you get dropped into this mission map effectively. Indy has 3 major zones. They're all open and explorable. So you'll get dropped in there and they'll be like, okay, here's your main story. But I mean, you can quite literally say like, all right, see you later, and just go do whatever you want. That kind of brings me into a critique, because like in Dishonored, you can do that and you can succeed, and there's no limitations that you really feel. Whereas Indiana Jones, there's a great disguise system in the game that really like lets you infiltrate behind enemy lines. If you don't have all of the disguises and you're just trying to rely on the game's pure stealth mechanics, it's where it kind of gets a little shaky, because like the enemy vision cones are horrible. So like you start to see the stealth isn't that great. Sometimes, locations are so full of enemies that the game's pretty much telling you like you need a disguise to go into here. Without actually telling you, because again, they won't stop you. But if you get caught, there's like 30 guards there. And you're just going to make a mad dash out of there or reload your checkpoint, one or the other. But it's like Dishonored in that, like the openness, the first person immersion interaction, like you can pick up most objects in the environment and throw them, which is something you can do in Dishonored. The main lootables in the game are either collectibles or money, which is just like Dishonored. Those collectibles are really cool. They get like logged into your journal. You get adventure points. You can spend those adventure points on adventure books that give you new perks. So they kind of have that skill loop. Like Dishonored has powers that I think you spend. What did you spend in Dishonored? I'm forgetting the name of it. But point being is it's got a very familiar loop there. And it makes sense. They worked with Arcane on Youngblood. And while Youngblood wasn't great, you could see the level design from Arcane creeped into that game. It was like the one good part of that game. And so I feel like they've just been taking pages out of their playbook for a while, and that's what came to be with this game. But yeah, it really did remind me of Dishonored the most. Like, it just is that immersive first person stealth experience. Just like in Dishonored, yeah, you can go crazy and stab everyone. I think Dishonored's action gameplay is a lot more, I think it's better because you could actually just play in a chaotic way in Dishonored, whereas like Indie, picking up a gun and running around, you can do it. It just feels really wrong, but you can do it. Okay. But there is, like I said, there is a way to play. Like, it's best to go through the main story, get all your disguises, and then hit everything on the way back. The problem is you miss out on field work, which are the game's like major side quests. When I say major, I mean like these will take like an hour and a half. Like they have full cinematics. Like they're the main story too. Like, and they play into the main story. They build out these characters. Like, if you don't do the field work, for example, Gina, one of the main side characters in the game, like, she has enough screen time to be important and relevant, but she kind of just feels like most woman character in an Indiana Jones film. Like, she's just kind of like his love interest, and that's really it. But when you do these fieldwork missions, it actually builds out like why she's really part of your mission and like what motivates her and that sort of thing. And so it adds a lot to the narrative experience there. So yeah, it's bigger than a Dishonored game, but it's definitely structured similarly for sure.
Okay. The idea of Indiana Jones getting perks is pretty funny to me. What kind of perks are you getting?
Yeah, so you'll find these adventure books either in the environment. Like, it's never like you're going to just like buying from a skill tree. Again, everything about the game is just centered on immersion. So, okay, you found this adventure book that lets you, I don't remember what it's called, but like you can use your whip and like wrangle heavy enemies and like choke them out. That's like a really good perk, right? Because normally they just ignore the whip. Now you can actually use it on them. To things like, this shopkeeper, there's people in Gizeh who need medicine. So one of the collectibles for that map, which spans across the other maps too, is like people need medicine. So you'll find medicine in like these Nazi camps, and you'll bring it back to them, and sort of in the trade, they'll give you these adventure books. And so these adventure books will give you like more health, more stamina. So little, passives like that. But there's also active abilities, like I think one of them gets more uses out of an item because like items have durability. So if you like bust it over someone's head, it kind of breaks them 1 to 2 tries, but now they last a little bit longer. So yeah, I was like leading into the launch, this was the biggest question mark for me. I was like, how does progression in this game work? Because like Wolfenstein just had a skill tree, if I remember correctly. Whereas Indiana Jones, they kept talking about these adventure books and spending adventure points, but they never showed really how it worked. But yeah, it's literally just, again, this is a game all about collectibles. You find this collectible in the environment or you buy it, and then you unlock it with those adventure points that you get by like snapping pictures of like important people or objects, by solving cases, by solving mysteries, by completing missions, that sort of thing. And you'll have this whole currency that you can spend. And there's a ton of them. There's a ton of them. I haven't gotten all of them yet, but there's a lot. Like, you'll see when you go into your travel section of your journal, you can see how many collectibles there are per area. It's ridiculous. There's so many. It's a lot. Okay. But okay, I think people have fun. Like, for those who are, which we know there are many in the audience, like platinum trophy hunters, this seems like a reasonable platinum hunt. Like, it's a lot of just like collect everything, eat a couple of foods. Like, you just basically do everything. And I think you'll get a lot of appreciation out of the game seeing it that way. So I'm still working on that. I paused a little of my indie wrap up work because I wanted to play Marvel Rivals. And but yeah, it's an amazing game, man. I'm really excited to go back and 100% it.
Yeah, nice, awesome. You were talking about kind of like the AI of the enemies and stuff like that, and their cones of vision. Electric Soup wrote in and said, "Hey fellas, hope everyone is doing well. Matty, I've heard there are a decent amount of difficulty settings you can tweak in the Great Circle. Do any of them affect the AI that mitigates some of the more immersion breaking flaws it has? And how extensive are the difficulty options overall?"
Yeah, I ended up switching to hard, and I noticed even then they were bad. I think there's a couple other options above it. I think there's one more above it, but I didn't try that one out. But I will just say I was having an issue with normal and hard, and I didn't feel, it's a tough thing. It's a tough line to walk because I get they don't want you to be instantly detected, but I'm talking like, I'll be like crawling right in front of you, and they just like, you'll see the vision cone just starting to fill up, and I just like get behind a wooden block, and I'm like, bro, you saw me. Like, you saw me. I think the problem is people want this to be fixed, and I agree it should be. But what happens then is the level design and the amount of guards in certain areas, like you're just going to get caught constantly then. And then the stealth really falls apart. Like I feel like the generous vision cones are there because otherwise the stealth stimulation, if you will, doesn't work. So the game's kind of caught between two of its biggest issues, like I talked about earlier. Like as much as it is a top 3 game for me this year, it's also pretty flawed. I was surprised to see some perfect scores because I was like, I love it. I adore it. But I also see a lot of issues with it that I think people would have a problem with. This is one of them. And I don't think there's much you can really do about it, at least so far. If they patch it, if they change these sorts of things, maybe. But a lot of it felt more like combat oriented, like damage dealt, which kind of does its own thing. Like, yeah, maybe the vision cones still suck, but you have this now the enemies can really punish you if they catch you. So you take that stealth a little more seriously. So it kind of offers its own level of immersion, I guess, playing on the harder difficulty. But at the end of the day, we're compensating for like one of the game's issues. So there's not really a fix for this, unfortunately, at least at this point in time. It's something I talked a little bit about with Deathloop. Deathloop had really bad AI, really bad vision.
Really bad.
Yeah. And Deathloop, it's a little less forgivable just because like you had so many like buildings you could go up on, and the freedom was greater in Deathloop, so it made the problem worse. Whereas like Indy, you're always ground level. You can go up, don't get me wrong, but it's not like Indy's gonna blink up on top of like a rooftop. You'd have to physically climb there, use your whip and pull yourself up there. So it's a little more human in that experience. I think it works to the game's advantage. But yeah, if I were to draw a comparable, it was a little Deathloop-like in the AI. And I imagine this will be one of their first targeted fixes for the game. We'll see how it pans out from there.
Yeah, because you're talking about how it seems to be based around the level design.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it could just kind of clash more and just not work like you're saying.
Yeah, because then you just get caught, I think.
Yeah, maybe a solution, Matty, is, I guess, just put it on for the really hard difficulties or in an individual slider, I guess, so people can still get that big challenge that they want. Like, I would really want the big challenge, Matty, but you saying the game feels like it's built around their AI at their current level, that makes me feel like it's just going to be more frustrating later on than...
Yeah, because like I always think of this one place in Egypt that you go to where it's like a Nazi camp. It's like full of obviously the enemies, and when you're like crawling around, like there's just certain gaps in the levels with like obstacles that you would be able to realistically hide behind based on their walking patterns that work really well with them being able to slowly see you. Where I think 9 times out of 10, someone would look at you and be like, what are you doing, like crawling across the floor, bro? Like we're out in the middle of nowhere. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But it works because then you get behind that next object. You're like, whew, that was in your head, the gamer. You're like, whew, that was close. But then you have that moment of like, dude, if I saw even like someone's leg sticking out, I'd be like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, so
yeah.
I mean, it's very video gamey in that sense, for sure.
Yeah. I think that's just kind of a thing for stealth games in general, because if it's too realistic, then it'd be extremely frustrating for a lot of people. And I feel like there is a fine line to get between good and just way too forgiving. And Indiana Jones, I guess, of course, very dark things happen in that series, but it is like a light-hearted adventure kind of a lot of times. So I think they're just more into for the goofy aspects, because Indiana Jones is pretty goofy in some ways. So
yeah, it's got that mixture. Like there's some dark moments for sure. I don't want to specify when you see those, but there are some dark moments for sure. But there's also like genuine laugh out loud moments. There's I'll just say there's one in the Vatican where Indy is dressed as a priest and someone comes to him to confess a sin, and he gets roped into the situation that feels so like it was a scene pulled out of the movie, like a deleted scene that they put in here. It was hilarious. Like it was his, like, Troy Baker's performance was incredible in this game. It really is one of my favorite.
Nice.
This has been like a really good year for video game performances between like him as Indy and James from Silent Hill 2. Like these are just two of my favorite, like all-time favorite performances in games, and they're just like packed back to back with each other basically. It's really cool. But yeah, just there's a lot to this game, man. It's really an impressive one. I'm super happy with it. It's good to see, the collective positivity. Like you never know when critics come out, they like it a lot. You just never know, like the audience is going to feel the same, but it seems like people are really having a good time with it, which is good. It feels good to wrap up 2024 on like a really positive note. So
yes,
that made me really happy to see.
I'm very stoked about this game. I love Indiana Jones. Please tell me, how does the whip feel?
The whip feels great. I mean, yeah, that kind of brings up the sound design. Like the sound is really good. Of course, like the punching sounds like those cannon shots. Like it's most satisfying punch sound effect of all time. Just like, especially because the visuals you literally see as you're hitting them, they're like bruising up and like looking very uncomfortable. Like it's really satisfying. The whip though is like pulled straight out of the movie. So it's got that great sound to it. And you'll use it a lot. Honestly, I think I underutilized it in my playthrough because I just love throwing hands in the game. Like I had so much fun with that because you can like parry and like just knock their ass out. Like it's really satisfying. But yeah, when I did use the whip, I mean, especially when someone showed up with a gun, you just like drop that, please. Or they show up with like a two-handed weapon that, like Indy's squishy, so he's going to go down quickly. Just have them drop that. It was really useful in those situations. I wish it was a little more freeform. Like if you're exploring a level, I think of it again. I'll go back to Dishonored. I think of Blink, how you can like pretty much within reason get on any rooftop and kind of oversee the level. I would have loved if this was less contextual, where like Indy can only use his rope on certain like pipes and certain walls and that sort of thing. And I would have loved if I could just look at any point in the level and like whip myself up there and pull myself up. I know it would have opened up like a can of worms of just how the levels are designed and how free Indy is to do what he wants and before it gets a little too crazy. But I think it would have been to the game's benefit because I do think there's times where like the Vatican was definitely the I put in quotes the worst of it, because you'll have these moments where like I'll approach like a guardhouse and I'm like, okay, I've been through this level. I spent like 8 or 9 hours in the Vatican alone. So you'll have this moment where you're like, okay, I know based on my explorations, there's like this front door, there's a window up there, there's a window up there, there's a back door over there, but I'm facing the front side. There's so many different winding streets in the Vatican. This is the way I get in. Oh, I see the window up there is wide open. I can't just whip and get up there. I have to go back, go around, go up a stair set, climb a few specific objects, then use my whip, climb one wall, grab to a pipe, shimmy over, use the whip again, climb up another wall, and then I can get up through that window that gets me into the building. Another way to get it is like I can use my disguise and walk straight through the front door if I have the right disguise. That's obviously the easiest. But the problem is for most of the level, to get back into that building without any sort of bullshit happening, you probably want to use that whole process I just broke down of like climbing through the window. So when you repeat that a few times, it feels a little too linear. And that's where you're like, man, if the whip just let me say like, I'm going up here and just I attach that object and I pull myself up, it was a little more freeform. That would have been, I think, really good for the game. I think it was a mistake to not do that, because that is like the game's, I think it's its core issue is that it is a great stealth game, but it could be excellent if it had some little design changes there.
Tweaks like that. Do you think, I guess, just with that, they don't want him feeling like Spider-Man, I guess, where he can just literally do everything?
Yeah, like that was the vibe I got. I was like, okay, they probably want you to feel like Indy. And I feel like just natural AAA game testing would have yielded this sort of result of like, we tried letting Indy climb on everything and it was a little ridiculous, and maybe, but it's also like a video game. And I'm like, that would have been really fun. And you could still make it make sense. Like, I'm not saying Indy has to attach to a rock, but like the Vatican, a lot of the, like what I'm talking about with that window section, like there's literally like scaffoldings and there's piping and like stuff that would have made sense for his whip to wrap around. Whereas like in even the specific ones they have you do, like I think fall in that pocket where they could have had a sort of design of like, hey, you can attach to these sorts of objects, but not these. But maybe then, because it's AAA, they would have felt they needed to mark it with paint and that it would have been immersion breaking. So again, it's a good idea on paper. It's not the end of the world. I still felt like I was very in control of the situation and just like had a lot of options in front of me. It's just like, it was like a list of specific options rather than like, how do I truly want to go about it?
Yeah. Just there could be some refinement there.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Jason, any interest in Indiana Jones right here, or any questions for Matty?
Oh, so much interest. Hearing Matty validate like how good the game is, and we share a lot of common interests, especially when it comes to immersive sims, which I didn't know this was really going to be an immersive sim until some of the previews started coming out and the reviews. They like doubled down on that, and they're like, not only is it an immersive sim, it's a good one. And you're like, oh, thank God. So that's really cool. I agree with Matty, like even up to his opinion on Deathloop, where I love the vibe of that stuff, but I'm like, man, Dishonored 3 would have been way more appreciated. Deus Ex is my favorite game of all time, like the original. I love all the games in that series, and I love Prey. So to hear this is probably the closest thing to one of those kind of games that we've had. Mm-hmm. Like, would it be fair to say that? Like, at least at this level or this production value?
Yeah, I would say it's close. Again, both these games, like the problem with using Dishonored and Prey as sort of these touchstones is both games do what I'm describing Indiana Jones is trying to do much better. But it doesn't take away that Indy is still really good at what it does. Like, there's still a lot of options available to you. There's still a lot of stealth, but it's kind of the catch-22 because what do you value, right? Like, do you value that sort of immersive factor of like, I want to feel as if I'm Indiana Jones. Like, I want to feel like I'm in his shoes, walking around this world. If you want that, then that's probably why they limit all the moveset for him to kind of create that immersive factor and like what he's capable of doing. Like, he's just a dude at the end of the day, and he feels like a dude. He's not a superhero. And so, you know, that limits how he gets about the environment, but it enhances when you're like doing the first person puzzle solving and whatnot. Like, you just really like, it all comes together. You feel like you're him. So if you can appreciate that element, then I think the sort of Dishonored light experience, if you were to put it, I think it's maybe a little too strong of a take, but like Dishonored light, that would be something you can deal with a little bit easier. You know, if it's not on the level of a Prey or Dishonored, it's still good. You'll still enjoy it.
Have you played the original Deus Ex or Invisible War?
I have it. It's funny. I have it on my list to do this December. I actually I was just talking to Locke about it. I was like, yeah, I feel like Deus Ex makes a lot of sense for me. I just know it's like in my wheelhouse. I know it's in my taste. I played Human Revolution. I've not played Mankind Divided, but I've heard the original Deus Ex is like incredible. So I was like, yeah, I want to. Yeah. I have the revision mod. I don't know if you know that. Like, have you heard of it? The revision mod or whatever on Steam that apparently kind of overhauls some of it. So I have that installed. I forgot what it's called. There's
a texture mod. Is it the texture mod?
Like, it's just called Deus Ex Revision.
Okay, because I know there's been a texture mod that's updated a bunch of stuff over the last few years.
It is definitely a texture mod. Like, it looks
I don't know
sharper.
If it changes other things.
Yeah, look into it. But yeah, it was the Game of the Year edition you install, then you can get what's called Deus Ex Revision, or it's like in the storefront, something like that.
I have to do a new play of that. I played that game since it came out. I played it like every year for like 10 years straight. And then I haven't done a replay of it in a while. Who knew? Lots of games coming out. Yeah. But yeah, it's so good. So I'll do that in December when I'm off as well.
Deus Ex Revision is a community-made overhaul of the 2000 classic. It features new environments, music, world-building detail, and bundles in some of the best modifications the fan base has made, including direct 3D9 rendering, high-res textures, high detail models, and an alternate gameplay modes.
Interesting. I wonder how true that is. Like, when you say new environments, that's the one part.
Yeah, seeing that, I'm like, hold up.
Interesting.
Locke is the one who told me you should play it this way.
Okay. So there was a texture pack that just basically up-resed a bunch of the textures, because depending on what there's certain aspects of that original game that just are so silly and weird, but that kind of adds to a charm. Like the fact that everybody that dies just falls on their knees and then face plants down every single time. It's awesome. So that's like kind of that 2000s era jank that we were just getting out of, but they were like, you know what? This is what we got at this point. So we're going to leave it that way. It's great. Nice. But the reason I brought that up was because that game, especially when you start it, you don't have any sort of special abilities. Your points that you're putting into your attributes are so limited. So you also start as kind of just a dude, right? And then you have these points you could put into, faster movement, jumping higher, those kind of things how you want. And there's an insane amount of stats in that game. By the way, fun fact before you get started: swimming, useless. Don't need it. So save the points. Okay. Save the swimming points. You don't need them. So that's why I wonder what it would be like having that knowledge as well. There was one question I wanted to ask you. You mentioned that this girl is the typical girl from the movies. There is a huge gulf between Willie and Marion. So
yes, I'm sorry.
I don't know how you can say typical girl when you have great girl and ruining a movie girl.
Yes, sorry. What I mean is, Yeah, I'm agree. Okay, so yeah, I'm glad we really do have the same opinions. Okay, yeah, because I like Temple of Doom, but yeah, she does not help. Damsel in distress. Gina, to be clear, is not that.
Okay, thank God.
Given how things go and how they try to develop that relationship between the two, that's what I mean. Like knowing how things go with Indy without trying to spoil the movies, just in case anyone's like me hasn't watched them. Trying to develop Gina as a love interest, you're like, this doesn't work. Like it just doesn't. But the game tries to anyway, and I'm like, why? There's moments where they both reflect, and I think really is nice when it's like personally about them. Again, this is coming off of Raiders, so like when we're looking at Raiders into Lost Crusade, you're like wondering, well, where's Marion, right? Like that's one of the movie's big questions, and I feel like the game actually serves as the betweener to kind of answer that thing. In fact, one of the opening moments, I won't spoil it, but just has a little bit of like resolution to that that I really appreciate. So my thing with Gina is really the problem I have broadly speaking with the character writing. So what'll happen is this game tries to make everyone useful in moments that they don't have to be. So there's times where Indy is not as knowledgeable about something, which is okay because Gina's like this investigative journalist and it works for her to be aware of something happening in the area. But instead they'll make Gina sound like a dumbass so that Indy can sound smart in that moment and be useful in the cutscene, and vice versa, where sometimes Indy will be like, I don't know what to, like he just one time literally said, I'm out of ideas. And I was like, that's the most anti-Indiana Jones line I've ever heard. And then she'll have the idea. And it's like, okay, so it just felt like the writers in the room were like, yeah, we want to get them both involved and like have purpose and have them lean on each other. And by the end of the game, again, no spoilers, it just to me goes in a way that felt very much like an Indiana Jones movie. I think Gina is more interesting. I'd say Elsa is like, in the terms of a character and surprises, like probably my favorite. Marion's of course the GOAT, but she's the one. But when it comes to Gina, she just kind of like, I don't know if I would throw her above, most of the women that are in the indie games or in the movies, just because I don't really see a lot that makes her super compelling. She's not reductive to the game, but she's also not super additive. And I feel like that is what a lot of the women characters in Indy's movies did outside of Elsa to me, who was like a big part of like the antagonistic force. Marion was good, but Marion just had charm, So that's how and maybe people don't agree with that, and that's fine. But that's kind of how I walked away from Gina. I was like, she's not a bad character. She's just also not like great. So she just fits this kind of invisible mold that helps move the plot along. Like the reason she's there is literally she's just a plot device, in my opinion. So, does that answer your question a little bit on like?
Yeah. I just, when you said your typical one, I'm like, whoa. Like I straight up strongly dislike Temple of Doom because of Willie. Yeah. Like Willie single-handedly ruins. I mean, the movie itself is just kind of a series of falling into things. And this is actually, I kind of want to transition to another question as well that I had to just a bit more out of left field. I'm a big James Bond fan, right? I love the James Bond movies. I'm not like a huge Indiana Jones fan, but like I like a James Bond movie where it's like, here's the mission, and then he does the mission, and then stuff happens along the way. Temple of Doom has that weird plot structure where he literally falls into the events of the movie, and then you have this person screaming the entire time. But on the topic of James Bond, like Steven Spielberg actually wanted to make a James Bond movie, and then he was approached with Raiders. And then that's how Raiders is. So it's got a lot of kind of similarities to a James Bond movie in that sense. I wanted to get your thought on from both of you guys, which is, do you think like this kind of maybe changes a little bit of the expectations on what IO is going to be doing with their James Bond game? Or do you think it's just, that'll just be straight up Hitman, which is also immersive simi in the way?
That's an interesting question because I'm giving them the opportunity to surprise me, but I am one of those people who is like, put a fucking James Bond skin on Agent 47 and call it a day. I love Hitman. So Hitman 3 was my game of the year when it came out. Hitman 2 is amazing. Hitman 1 took some time with like the episodic release, but in a complete package, that game's also amazing. So like I have no reason to doubt IO, but it sounds like they're kind of going for what Indy does, where it was a mixture of stealth and action and like that third person shooting. I just hope that like the idea of a James Bond game where you have like 5 missions that you can put like 10 hours into each and have all different outcomes like a Hitman is all I want, right? The use of James Bond gadgetry and stuff, like that's what I'm hoping for. But I don't know. Do you think it's going to be first person? Like, I feel like that would kind of work. A ton of 007 games are in first person, right? Like even the most iconic ones are like GoldenEye or Nightfire. Like those are first person. So it'll be interesting to see what direction they take. And I imagine it's not much longer until we actually see it, right? It's been in development for a decent amount of time. But yeah, I think now that you mentioned, I didn't think of it, but yeah, I think seeing Indy, I almost expect something like that, like first person interactive stealth elements with some action sequences mixed in. That'd be nice. I'd be a fan.
Because these movies, like similar to Indiana Jones, like everybody remembers all these big set pieces, but the movies themselves are maybe, I don't know, 30% of them are maybe action compared to the 70%, which is more about figuring it out, figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
Talking to people, relationships, that kind of stuff. So I was, when I saw how this game ended up, I'm very, and again, super excited to play it. I said, oh man, maybe a similar approach, you know, because the movies are of a similar ilk.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think James Bond will exactly like Matty said, kind of like drop you in a location, some stealth, but there'll be way more action this time. Because, you know, Bond runs and guns sometimes. That's just the way it is.
You guys ever played the Quantum of Solace game?
Quantum Assault? No, I haven't played that one.
It was awesome.
No.
I remember like my brother bought it and I was like looking for something to play when I was in high school and I found it in his room and I fired it up and I thought it was sick. It was like just a great third person shooter. Like 007 low-key has like amazing video games all throughout. You know, like they were just all so fun to me. Nightfire was my favorite growing up. That was the one I loved.
Damn. I don't think I've played Nightfire. I mean, I played GoldenEye a lot, but
it's solid.
I don't know about Nightfire.
Yeah.
Nightfire solid. The most underrated, I'd say, is probably Everything or Nothing, which is straight up an original James Bond movie like story. It's got Willem Dafoe as the villain, Heidi Klum as the Bond girl, Pierce Brosnan. It's like if that was the movie instead of Die Another Day. Like,
yeah,
there probably wouldn't have been a bit of a gap of movies.
It is that's one I really like too. I don't think I ever beat it as a kid because I always played the demo for it. So I remember like being on the motorcycle and like sliding underneath the oil tanker. Like I remember that was like part of that demo level. I also remember thinking it was so cool when you could like scale the building with like that. I forgot what the name was, like a grapple kind of gun. That was cool too. Yeah, that was in that game. That was awesome. That was a fun one too.
Sorry, I completely derailed the conversation.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's what the show's about.
Indy! Looks good.
Looks great. Ding Dong wrote and said, hey, Summon Signers. Hope you're all doing great. Matty. They wrote Matty, not Matty.
How dare they? That's actually whenever I make a woman character in a game, that's how I spell
it. I've seen you've been playing Indiana Jones. Is it still keeping you hooked? Or did it lose its whip? I heard your Incognito's take on The Last Defining Duke, and wow, sounds like another must-play. Can't wait to experience it when it swings its way onto PlayStation. Big shout out to Phil for graciously sharing the Xbox exclusives. I guess sharing is caring after all. And here's hoping there's room for more burgers, fries, and shakes on the menu kind of day. Thanks for keeping the content coming all year long, and I hope you all get some well-deserved downtime soon. Now, Matt, I'm just curious about this. As someone who's in the Xbox ecosystem, you know what's going on in there. Do you feel like some of the momentum is gone from like the victory? It feels like this is the Xbox game people have been waiting for a long time. Like, universally loved. Everyone's digging it right now, but it's like, but it's coming to PlayStation next year. See you in the spring, kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that is affecting it to some people, or does it even matter at this point?
I wonder how reactive like Xbox will be to like day one sales, given that I think a lot of people are paying attention to these reviews and going like, oh, wow, okay, I'll pick this up on PlayStation. You know, like I think there's probably got to be at least like a couple 100,000 people who are doing that right now. Like, and you combine that with the physical collectors where Indiana Jones, at least on Xbox right now, is like the physical copy is like a coaster. Like it's just useless. So they lose out on those sales too, whereas at least PlayStation has tried to make a better effort getting theirs. Like I look at Spider-Man 2 with Insomniac, like putting it all on disc. That was really important to them.
Right.
And obviously Xbox is like DRM and shit is terrible too. They're the worst in the console business. So I think they lose some out on that, where I'm wondering how the sales and player count will be for this game. But definitely like, yeah, I was thinking about it. I didn't mention in my review because I'm like, this is just kind of reductive to the conversation about the game. But yeah, like looking at I mean, I really felt like last year was that for Xbox already. Like you had Hi-Fi Rush. Like that was the moment people were like, yeah, we're finally getting what we wanted. You follow that up with Redfall, it hurts. But 2023 was that year. Like you got a Forza, you got a Starfield, you got a Hi-Fi Rush. Like that was a great year of exclusives for them. Not including all of like the indies and stuff that hit the platform as well. Indie, though, I think this is what they need in terms of like, critical darling might be a strong term, but people generally really like this. The fans like it too. It reviewed well. There's just positive buzz and sentiment. At the same time, the conspiracy brain in me has to wonder a little bit like, it is coming to PlayStation. It's not just an Xbox exclusive where like, for me, like whenever I review an Xbox exclusive, I don't remember the last one I did that wasn't like a little bit divisive outside of Hi-Fi Rush. Like Starfield was really divisive. Hellblade 2, at least for me and my strong opinions on the game, felt pretty divisive. So Redfall was a disaster. So yeah, it feels like kind of a lot of what we've been saying, which was like when people were really freaking out about Xbox exclusives going away at the top of this year, it was because like you felt Xbox was finally turning the corner. Like you got Activision Blizzard, you have all these IP, you can make compelling exclusives that'll push your console to the next level. And then here comes Machine Games from that Bethesda family, and they're like, boom, here's another good one. So it definitely, if you're like an Xbox diehard, which I'd say I fall into a category of, just I don't fall into a particular category of like, no one gets to experience the games I get to experience. But if you're like an Xbox diehard who's just like cared a lot about like having those unique exclusives on your platform, you still have that. It's just on a timer. It's on a very short timer. But it definitely stings a little bit because there really is that we are seeing the visible fork in the road of like, wow, like Xbox has everything that they needed to start doing what people have been saying they should be doing since the PS4 generation. And they're going in a totally different direction now that they have it all. It's still a little surreal in that aspect, but I don't think it takes anything away from it because I think there's a lot of things. It almost might work out for them because there's a lot coming out right now. And then where like maybe people are skipping out on indie that, or they're just deciding to play it later, where this could have good long-term sales. We'll see. I hope it sells well though. It really deserves it. It's a really great game.
Bad news right now, Matty.
Oh no.
So today is technically the launch day. It did come out earlier or last night around 9 p.m. or whatever like that. But it is launch day, so we'll see how things evolve. But right now, Matty, the all-time peak for this on Steam is 11,405. That's very bad.
That's very bad. Oh my God, no.
Is it?
For a game this size and probably how much it costs and getting that license from Disney, especially when we've seen Spider-Man's license from Marvel, probably not great right now.
You're looking, all right. So my take on that is it as good as the best of the best? No, it's not Power World, but people aren't. It's a single player only game. Yeah. It's on Game Pass. So this is probably more of the case of, like, I think Dustin said it himself. He's going to sign up for Game Pass, play the game, and then cancel Game Pass, right? There's probably more people who would do that.
That's what I'm doing.
So you're missing the PC audience. You're missing the Xbox audience. You're getting, it is 2:00 Eastern on Monday. So word of mouth hasn't really been able to settle in. I don't necessarily see this doing crazy numbers on Steam, especially concurrents. There's no need to play concurrently with other people as well. It's not a multiplayer game for every one person. They're not asking 3 other people to jump in with them. And I just don't. And you talk about the legs. That number is not something that would ever become persistent. It's not something like Helldivers, where we're going to keep playing again and again and again and again and again. After a week, it's over. You're done. Game's done.
Right.
So those people aren't coming back. So I would more so be looking at that tail. What is this? What does the average Steam concurrence look like by the end of December? Instead of saying, it only hit 20K. Well, man, that sucks. But I think this may also point to a good reason for why PlayStation's going to come sooner, right? Like you might tap out of that whole audience sooner, and then you get all the people after PlayStation. But that could also be kneecapping the numbers now. There's plenty of people who are going to say, I'll just wait. I'm going to have a PlayStation. I just bought a $700 PlayStation PS5 Pro. I'm going to wait to play it on that thing.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of variables. I wouldn't look at Steam concurrence as a be-all, end-all.
I'm not. Yeah, I wasn't saying Steam, and that's why I said it's launch day right now. It's still got a ways to go. But I'm just going to compare it to another single-player game that came out this year that did way better on Steam, and it's considered probably a failure, which is Dragon Age: The Veilguard, also single-player. That peaked at 89,000. So we'll see where Indie gets to.
The Game Pass definitely is a factor in player count.
It is 100%. Of course it is. But they're not going to make as much money. Well, for Xbox, I don't know what their metrics are anymore.
I still don't know. What the fuck they care about. It's just player count for them. But
so yeah, exactly. The other thing with Veilguard, so 2 points on Veilguard. 1 wasn't on Game Pass. 2, how long is that game?
Veilguard or indie?
40,
Veilguard.
Veilguard's ridiculously long.
Yeah, so your tail of users who are playing could also overlap, so that they would stick around longer to allow, your
Indie's a big
and again,
game.
This is more giving the benefit of the doubt. I have no idea what Microsoft's success metrics are.
I think, Matty said, it's exactly like what Blizzard and Activision were doing until they got. Well, Microsoft's doing that now. It's just active users. That's what they always do now. They don't give sales or anything like that. I mean, Xbox hasn't given sales for a long time, right, Matty?
Yeah, no, I don't remember the last time I've seen like Xbox give out sales numbers. In fact, the last time we saw that was actually, I think, Sea of Thieves on PlayStation. We just knew it was like the #1 game on PlayStation the month it came out. Like that was a big deal because it was like, well, that says a lot about, and I think that's what pushed Xbox. Right after that, Xbox like came out. They're like, yeah, we're gonna do more of this, and then like you're seeing they're like gearing up to do more. So, yeah, man, I would love to get the hard data. It would make assessing their success.
Hard data would be so great from everybody.
It would just be a lot easier because I think it would help them a lot in just assessing like when they're actually on fire and when they're not,
Yeah.
I think it just really would. It would almost help the conversation around them, but they continue to be cagey with like player numbers and that sort of shit. And so
I also don't know how big of a brand indie is. Like, this is a game that has to stand more on its own as a game individually. People coming in who don't really care about indie at all, because Indiana Jones as an IP does not seem like the big draw that, I mean, it hasn't really been like that.
It's not nearly as much, because the movies haven't been very great. I would say the recent ones. So, Matty, have you seen those? The 2 newer ones?
Nope.
No.
Not yet.
Cool.
I've heard not to rush into them.
No.
I haven't heard bad things about Kingdom Crystal Skull. Like, I haven't heard bad things about that, but
you haven't heard bad things about that?
Yeah, not really.
Crystal Skull?
Yeah.
Crystal Skull? Wow, Crystal Skull is bad, dude.
Really?
I hate Crystal Skull. Yeah, I hate that movie.
Do you like did you see Dial of Destiny? Is it worse than that?
Yes. No. Oh, no, wait. Yes, it is worse, I would say.
Oh, no.
I would say it's worse. Well, Matty, I don't know. Like, I'm from the camp of, I don't even like the Star Wars prequels, so that's me. I'm in the boomer camp like that. I know a lot of people like the prequels.
Here's the thing with the prequels, though, in my opinion, at least, is like, I think there's really just one true great movie in there, and it's only great. It's my favorite Star Wars movie, but you also have to go through 2 movies. Like, I think Phantom Menace, outside of the final scene, is kind of mid. And then I ended up kind of enjoying Attack of the Clones, but it's definitely not a good movie, like, objectively speaking. So you have to go through 2 things of crap to get to like an actual fulfilling movie that's fun and engaging. So yeah, like, I don't think that's an awful take. Actually, when I finished Indy, I was like, I think I like this more than Star Wars, like the original trilogy. I mean, like, it's consistently better. We'll see if that take changes as I eventually see those movies, but I'm not really. I don't have high expectations because I know like people rave about the trilogy, but I didn't even know there was a 4th movie. I thought there was just, I thought Indy went away and they brought him back for just Dial of Destiny. So when I heard that there was this other, like, I think 08 or 09 movie that just like came out, I was like, okay.
Just let him believe it. Just let him believe it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I almost did not know it existed.
The Crystal Skull is actually fan fiction. You don't
you guys are scaring me.
Just to be clear, we're talking about indie numbers. I want this game to do well because it sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I love Indiana Jones, so I want that man to succeed. I love indie, so keep going. Especially when you do a great game and you want it to sell well because you want them to be rewarded for it. So I'm hoping it does what we all are. So we'll see. But
I just want the genre. I want the genre to have a win.
Sims. Yeah, definitely. I do like them. I don't have a ton of experience with immersive Sims, but I do like them whenever I play them. So more of that, please.
I do think after playing it, though, just kind of final thoughts from me. I do think after playing it, I feel like they kind of did a inadequate job of marketing what the game is. I think the biggest thing that kept people, number one, people hear how Bethesda is like lifting the embargo with the timing of like the game releasing. And while Bethesda has done that for they've done that since like Doom. They've done it for tons of games. It doesn't instill confidence because that stuff always leaks. And I think it creates a negative sentiment around the game. Even if Bethesda has not really earned that with some of the games they've published, it just is what happens. So there's that negative sentiment, but there's also like, even I, who was really interested in indie and covers a lot of Bethesda games, had a lot of trouble discerning what the indie moment-to-moment gameplay flow was like. And I feel like they got gun shy on showing it, because a lot of your moment-to-moment is like wandering and seeing something and then investigating it. And I don't know if they got gun shy because they didn't know how to show it and make it feel exciting, or if they were worried that people would just, do what social media does and be like, look at this next big Xbox exclusive. You just walk around, bro, and solve puzzles. It's stupid. Like, I don't know what it was, but I feel like a lot of people were like shocked that this game was good. And I was like, why are we shocked? Like, I think Machine Games is great. Like, outside of Youngblood, I think they've only made really good stuff. But then you kind of look at like how they marketed it, and I'm like, yeah, I was guilty as so. I was like, I want it to be like Game of the Year energy, but I don't know if it's going to be, because I just felt the way they showed it off. I'm like, what am I doing in this game? Like, I see bits of it, but I don't know like what the UI even looks like. I don't know what wandering around this game looks like. Even when they did the 15-minute extended gameplay, I was like, okay, I'm more on board now, but I didn't know how progression worked. I didn't really fully feel like I know the true flow of the game. So I feel like that could affect some sales, because until the reviews, when, by the way, a lot of other shit's coming out, one of them being the biggest free-to-play game of the year, there was just a lot of options where they were like, oh, okay, now I know what it is, but I don't have that money set aside to spend on indie. So I can see it coming back to bite them in the ass and kind of, just unfortunately not selling as well, at least early on, as it could have.
Early on, maybe.
I'm crossing my fingers for them. It's definitely one of their, definitely the best Xbox game we got all year.
Yeah. That's good. All right, Indiana Jones, I can't wait to play it. I will be in a couple days. Stoked. All right, let's talk about Marvel Rivals.
Mm-hmm.
I've also been playing this, Matty, as well. I've played a couple hours of it. And just like really quick general thoughts, I just think it's okay. I think it's all right now. Oh, Matty, I like your face. What do you, I gotta hear what you're saying. I gotta hear.
No, finish your thoughts. I didn't want. I wasn't trying to cut you off. Yeah,
as someone who's been playing a lot of the game, they're taking a ton of inspiration from, which is Overwatch right now. I've been playing a lot of Overwatch recently. I have noticed things in this game that I don't think are as good in a lot of ways. I think there is good stuff here, though, and I think there's a lot of potential. I think they need to work on a couple things, though, particularly the melee combat in this game. I think does not feel good, and I think it's a little too squirrely. Everyone flying around all the time. I get it; they're superheroes, but when you're doing an objective-based game where you have to like push a cart or something like that, it gets a little ridiculous. I don't know, and I think visually stuff looks cool, but when everyone's doing stuff, it's like fucking fireworks going off 24/7, and I think it's a little distracting. But I've only played a couple hours. I'm gonna play more, Matty. So I want to hear what you think about it first before we talk about more of it.
I already have 15 hours in it.
Oh, you
Holy
do?
shit.
Oh my god!
Holy shit,
Matty!
15 hours in Marvel Rivals already. I love this game, man. It's so fun.
Yeah.
It's so fun. I enjoyed launch Overwatch a lot. And I thought that was really great. And I played Overwatch for years. I stopped playing, came back to it. I was like, I'm not liking, like, I always enjoyed the comp mode. And like when they kind of changed the meta significantly, it's just, they almost over management. And then the lack of support kicked in. I was like, okay, I'll wait for whatever they do next. Overwatch 2 comes around. We know the story. It didn't really feel like a purposeful sequel. It lost the things that would have made it purposeful. And so it relaunches, you kind of get just what is effectively a big update to Overwatch 1. Like, okay, this still feels good. I still like this, but I've lost my attachment to everything that made me excited about this. Now, Marvel Rivals, easier buy-in for me. It's like, I love Marvel. Like, I am still a huge fan of, even after their little bump here with the latest phases, I'm still a big fan of what Marvel is doing and interested in what they're doing. I grew up with it. And so for this game, it was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. A hero shooter about actual heroes. I just love the roster. 33 characters at launch is I think just so awesome.
A lot of characters.
So
I almost
awesome.
imagined it's too much when I was looking at it all.
It's a lot,
like,
yeah,
I
dude.
That need this many.
Like I'm just still flipping around characters, figuring out who I like, understanding kits. But I've never felt this way about a free-to-play game where normally it feels like they take a measured approach and they're like, okay, we actually had more, but we're going to give this to you over time because we need engagement. This game felt like it just threw the kitchen sink at me and said, like, dude, figure it out. And I love that. There's like 8 full maps. Many of these maps very directly inspired, we'll use the word, by Overwatch. Many of these kits inspired by Overwatch. But as someone who fell out of love with Overwatch because I think it changed in some subtle and some significant ways, to get into this kind of more, I would say, fun first sort of approach where like everyone's a little busted. Because everyone's a little busted, anyone can be an impact on the field within reason. Like you still have to have like good aim and good usage of the abilities and good game sense, but like for some people that doesn't come as naturally. So anyone could be a difference maker at any point in the match, and I think that's what makes it fun. But like I still don't know my role in the game. Like, I like playing tank some nights. Like I really like Penny Parker. Some nights I'm really enjoying DPS, and I love playing as Wolverine, just like diving on people. But then also I was playing support last night. I was playing as Mantis, and I'm like, I don't really give a shit about Mantis, but she's fun as hell to play as. Like I'm just so into the game, and it's really the roster, it's the style and the flair the game has. I totally agree with what you said, Brad, in that like the fireworks going off is such a great way of describing some of these team fights. I think once my brain adjusted to it though, you know, I was like, yeah, like I feel I see the action better now. But that first few, like, especially the first couple hours, those team fights, I was like, I don't know about this. I was like, this is a little too intense. But once I adjusted, I was like, yeah, okay, this is fine. Especially because as I think people are learning the game, the opening night when I was playing, like, everyone was just diving each other, and it was that chaos. But as the game has settled in over the weekend, people are playing a little more measured, where like, oh, there's a front line and a back line, and like that sort of approach where it's a little more tactical and it's less fireworky. But I get what you mean about the floaty characters like an Iron Fist, a Spider-Man. But just to kind of conclude my point, it's kind of what brings about one of my favorite things about the game is that there's like a counter to everyone. Like, oh, okay, you want to play as like a floaty character like Spider-Man. We'll put Cloak and Dagger on our support. We'll put Scarlet Witch out there. And these characters, you don't even have to aim. I just need to be shooting in your general direction and you're dead. And Spider-Man's super squishy. So you want to force them off that character, especially if Spider-Man's a great pest, like hops in, hits you a few times, gets out. I love the strategy and the rotating of heroes, which is something I kind of forgot that I did with Overwatch because that was like a key part of that gameplay. But in Overwatch, eventually I feel it became a game where I just sort of picked my hero and just sat in that role. Where like here I'm rotating a lot, strategizing a lot more. And part of it's also like, oh man, I forgot this feeling, which is nice. But yeah, a lot of what I love about it is going to sound like a repeat of what I said about launch Overwatch, but that's a good thing because I feel like that void's been there for a while, at least for me, and I think for many others. So I've been loving it. I've been really having a good time with it. In fact, like it's funny, like I should be playing and finishing Metaphor, but I only played Marvel Rivals this past weekend. I was like, this is so much fun to me. I really love it.
I think that's what I'm saying. I think there's potential there, but I think they just need to work on like fundamentals, like hit impact. I don't think is good in melee at all. Like when I'm hitting someone with melee, I don't feel like the power necessarily. Everything feels very like the floaty thing is kind of thing throughout the whole game. Yeah, when you move around and like it's okay. It's not like a huge deal breaker, but I just feel like I was playing as Wolverine or whatever a couple days ago, and I was just shredding people, which is cool because he does a lot of damage. But I was just like, man, I don't feel like I'm really carving in these people like I want to.
That's interesting because Wolverine feels like one of the characters that does. Like I feel the most floaty with like an Iron Fist because he just drifts towards characters.
It feels
and
like he's like punching paper or something like that. Of course, he does a lot of damage, but that's like the impact and all the sound, the speed he does it, and all that. I just wish they'd kind of adjust. And of course, there's still plenty of room to do that. The game just came out, so there's gonna be lots of adjustments over time.
I read that the developers are focusing more on buffing characters than nerfing them. So I'm curious what they do because like right now, it's funny. The biggest problem in the game is probably Jeff the Land Shark. Like,
it's really good.
Yeah. Like he's really an incredible support. Like crazy heals, crazy mobility, can hide from damage almost entirely, recover his health. So if you hit him while he's underground, doesn't matter. His ult is really good, can either save your team or kill a bunch of enemies. Like, you know, there's a lot of characters in this game that I described it in my like little impressions video. I was like, a lot of characters in this game that just have it all. Like Iron Fist is another. Every character that people are having problems with, Scarlet Witch, Iron Fist, and Jeff the Land Shark, just have it all. Like they have the escapes, they have the mobility, they have the damage, they don't require much skill. They have sustain, like they're all just really fucking good. And like they would all be better if they just had one less ability. Like there's no reason Iron Fist should be able to sustain, create a shield, block damage, triple jump, wall run, do insane damage, lay on the hurt as much as he does, how quickly he does. Like something with him needs to get tuned down, because I don't know if tuning up anyone changes that unless you tune up the whole roster, because this dude is just he's a force on even against like a tank, like he's just really good because he just gains so much health back and can deflect so much of the attacking. Like that's where I think they got a little too crazy with it. He's fun to play as. Like when I pull him out, like, dude, he's awesome. But like, it's almost like, you're on borrowed time. This guy is going to get probably nerfed into the fucking dirt eventually. So I'm not attaching myself to him because I'm like, yeah, this guy there's no way this lasts. He's just way too good. But I think that's the biggest problem with the game is it's like there's 3 characters that you just know are way too good. Scarlet Witch is like, as someone who played her when I night 1 a lot, she's a dumb character. Like that's what I call her. Like she's just, you don't need to know what the hell you're doing on the map. You just need to hold the right trigger or hold the left mouse and just aim in that direction. You'll do a lot of damage, Like that's the type of character she is. She's with all due respect, I say this because I was talking to Locke about it and I found out his main was Moira. But I was like, she's a Moira character. Like Moira's really easy. He's like, oh, Matty, okay, well then. I was like, I didn't mean any offense by it, but Moira's easy. And so is Scarlet Witch. So the game's got a little bit of a balance issue.
Oh, sure. I mean, that's just kind of like every online game, and it'll go through phases. I'm really curious to see where this game's going to be in like 6 months, to see how they evolve it and what they change. Because, of course, that's how all these games live or die, is how well they support it. But it's had a phenomenal start.
Yeah.
It had, like 400,000 people playing it on Steam or something like that, or over that.
Yeah.
Crazy good start.
10 million players in 3 days.
Yeah. Have you gotten into like anything like the battle pass, Matty, or some of the microtransactions? I haven't really looked at any of that stuff yet.
Yeah. I bought it last night, actually.
The battle pass? Okay.
Yeah. I bought the luxury battle pass, in fact. Yeah.
Luxury battle pass?
Yeah.
Wait, hold on.
Yeah. So
what? Okay, so there's a battle pass and a luxury battle pass?
Yeah, the battle pass itself is not very expensive. Then there's the luxury battle pass, which gives you like these extra... There's 3 types of currency in the game, so I apologize to anyone who knows what I'm talking about. But I know one's called lattice, one's called units. And I'll just call the other points because I don't know what it is. But the units are blue. Lattice is gold. That's like your premium currency. And then there's the purple currency, which I'm calling points, which is for your battle pass. So when you buy the luxury battle pass, you get like a bonus 1,400 points. And basically, it just you as you go through and play the game, you're going to get these points, and you could spend them in the battle pass. And for me, I'm just getting the currency that's available in the battle pass and the skins they offer you, because that's what I was most interested in, especially because they have a really cool Mantis skin at the end of it all. But I'll say this, I think the monetization is friendly enough. But as someone who put like 15 hours into the game, I'm starting to see some like units come my way, which I can go and spend. Like if you really look at the missions and the events and you grind them out daily, which is what I do over the weekend, I'm like, okay, I'm getting a decent amount. But when you look at the price they are in like the inside the storefront, you'll see like I was looking at the No Way Home skin for Spider-Man. And this is an expensive example, but it was like 2,600 lattice or units. And you could spend lattice. So I could spend like $20 plus 400 units to get that. So that was just one of what is like, I think 10 skins available at launch. As friendly as it is in that you can earn currencies and you can eventually get these for free, you are not going to be able to just like blow through the unlock shop and just get all this shit for yourself.
Right.
Like the game gives you a lot of sprays and avatars for free, but when it comes to skins, you're paying.
Yeah,
like you might get 1 or 2 for free as you go through, like, but you're gonna have to pick and choose wisely.
Yes.
And I think it's better to just buy the battle pass and rely on those skins, because those skins, like I'll get pretty much 4 for the price of 1 through that. They have bundle offers, very Halo Infinite like you can get them individually for a very big price or as a bundle. Like there's a Guardians of the Galaxy bundle based on the movie's designs for a deeper discount. You can do that sort of stuff. I think what I really care about most, and everyone's kind of a pick your poison with this sort of thing. What I personally care about most is, does this affect my gameplay? No. The game is still super, super stylistic, looks really good. I love how all of the characters honestly look, which I don't remember the last fucking big AAA game I've said this for, where I'm like, wow, I love how everyone looks at launch. Like everyone
the character
looks
designs?
Cool. Like, everyone looks cool
to
start off. I'm like, nice. Like this is cool. Like I don't feel the need to go out and get a skin. There's just cooler additional options on top of this if I really want to. they've given out a couple for free. There was one that was like through a Twitch drop. There's 2 for free on PlayStation. There's one if you get like a code and put it in. I think it's like an Iron Man skin. That's what I was using. So yeah, it's not perfect, but I don't feel the need to spend money. I chose to because I was like, okay, I put a lot of time into this. I'm going to continue to put time into this. So I'm going to buy the Battle Pass. I'm going to buy the expensive version of the Battle Pass just because I want to. But yeah, there's 3 currencies in the game. One you buy, one you earn through play, the other you kind of earn through play and then spend on a Battle Pass. It's a little free to play-ish, unfortunately. But honestly, for what enjoyment I've been really getting out of it, I don't care. Like I'm just having so much fun with it. So
yeah, if you're enjoying the game and you want to get more out of it, sure, whatever.
Yeah,
I assume the premium Battle Pass is probably like $10 or something like that.
Yeah, it's
that's pretty standard.
Well, no, actually, it's not the luxury Battle Pass. So they priced it. They were a little coy with the pricing. I was trying to remember the process last night. It's just north of technically $10.
Oh, but you gotta spend more to get enough currency.
What's the next tier, Brad? 20. So I spent 20, right?
Okay.
Now I have this leftover premium currency. I'm looking at it, I'm like, okay, could kind of spend this wherever I want if I really need to. So I'm not doing that. I'm gonna pick and choose wisely, but you can, I think, quickly, like, with that leftover currency from that I spent after the Battle Pass, it's not like I have enough to go into the store right now and be like, okay, let me go like pick out a nice skin for myself. Nothing's really lit my fire anyway, but yeah, again, I would never call it predatory because it's not incentivizing me to go there. It's just my own desire, but it definitely is expensive. I'll say that. It's definitely not like, oh, I'll put like $50, $60 in this game and get all the skins. It's like, no, you put hundreds in this game to get everything you really want to. It's they know what they got. And so no doubt that if they take the League of Legends route with this game, where like League has like tier 5 skins that are just like insane, like people will spend like $600 on them, you're gonna probably see that. Just like, I think Diablo did the same thing. Like, no doubt it's gonna be in this game.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
I mean, it's Tencent, so you're gonna get that for sure. They're gonna have tier skins.
Netties.
I mean, like Overwatch has that kind of stuff. So
is it Tencent? Netties, right?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, it is Netties. You're right.
Yeah.
So
although I was just looking up the price of the Battle Pass, and it says this is actually, it's half price for this season.
Oh,
because I was seeing how it works, because this is season 0.
Yeah,
so it's going to double, I guess, for the next seasons.
I forgot. Matty, is ranked playing yet?
I did one match of comp, and I played as, who did I play as? I played as Iron Fist. I put together a decent game, but someone yelled at me in chat, and I was like, okay, so like that sort of like toxicity still exists in comp.
It's gonna be there,
yeah. Like I don't care. Some guy was like, stop fucking running about yourself. I'm like, I'm not, dude. I didn't argue with him. I was like, I'm not. But that was my mistake. I tried to do comp solo. I did like one game. I was like, nope. This is like immediately frustrating. So yeah, I've just been doing a lot of quick play. I have not. I have yet to really see the meta. I don't think really anyone knows the meta, because I don't know how there can be at this moment a meta, because everyone's kind of viable at this moment in time.
Everyone's still figuring out the game. Well, I mean, there's meta characters like you're saying, like Scarlet Witch and Iron Fist and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But all the other strats and stuff like that, people are still figuring out. So it's it's a really fun time to probably play these games, because nothing's fully established yet, I should say.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of room for experimentation, just having a good time.
Absolutely.
But I'll play more of it, Matty. Definitely. I wanna get that click that you have, because I like hero shooters a lot, so I'm hoping I do get that.
You say you only played like a few hours, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It might click more over time. I think you play a lot more Overwatch than me, though, right? So
yes, I do. I'm playing like Overwatch now a lot with like Lockmore and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because Locke mentioned you guys play a lot. I was like, yeah, that might be why. Like, I was away from hero shooters for a decent amount of time and don't really love what it's kind of become with Overwatch. So for me, this felt like it's kind of like what we were talking a little bit about with Path of Exile, where it's like, yeah, like getting into Path of Exile 1 is tough, but 2 is like a really good starting point now. Like, it's early access, there's half the classes than there will be at the full launch. Like, it's a little less overwhelming, that sort of thing. With Marvel Rivals, it's like, okay, I get to restart that connection. Like, I'm ready for a hero shooter, and this happens to be really good. It's very Overwatch-like, and the cast is interesting because I've read comics on a decent amount of these characters and watched movies on a decent amount of these characters. So I'm kind of in on all levels already. I think it's a great time. I also like the kind of event mode. Like, as you progress through this kind of event chain, it kind of I don't know if it tells a story, so to speak, but it gradually unlocks these missions that incentivize you to play different ways, which I've never really tried with these games. Like, oh, I'm gonna play as like magic and get 1,500 damage or 15,000 damage with her across a few matches, and I'll get like some premium currency that way. It's like, oh, cool. Like I never really tried to engage with a free to play title on that front. So that's been fun too, with the amount of like seasonal and event offers they kind of continuously rotate in and out. It's a really good structure right now. I like it. I'm curious to see what their first kind of big patch is. Now that they've had their launch weekend under their belt, they can kind of assess things.
Yeah. All right. Let's see here. I got a couple write-ins, or one right here. This is from Hand Solo Job. Is it me, or does Marvel Rivals level design feel like it was designed by an AI? I love the game, but the levels are just not memorable. What do you think, Matty?
That's strange, because I get where he's coming from, but at the same time, if you like Overwatch maps, I mean, they literally like borrowed the playbook. And so I don't think Overwatch maps feel like they're built from AI. Like, I just feel this game looked at the Overwatch modes like, okay, we get to push the payload. We're going to get that mode. We have this like point that you have to protect, like a King of the Hill. These are the two core modes in Marvel Rivals, and the maps are built around those. And again, the maps are very, in some, not all instances, like my biggest example was like Busan in Overwatch versus the Tokyo 2099 maps in Marvel Rivals are like identical, like very similar to open up. That like wall is there, the doorway to the wall is in the same place. There's this big plaza, the building placement's pretty similar. There's little difference in its intricacies. Obviously, the destructible environment helps too. So there's that. And it's actually a big factor in these games, like blowing down walls and like, exposing places that people would be hiding or placing traps is a really big part of the game too. So I would disagree with this. It's familiar, but it's familiar because it definitely borrows from the playbook of the GOAT. So, I would disagree. Hand Solo Job, your crazy fucking name, but to each their own.
Yes. Cool. Yeah, we shall see how the game evolves. I'll try to check in with you next time you're on, Matt, to see how you're feeling about it.
Yeah. Please.
After some more time, but I'm glad you're enjoying it. That's really good. That's
Love
awesome. All righty. Jason, Ease 10 Nordics. You look,
right.
as soon as I said Ease 10, you smiled. You're ready to talk about this game.
I'm ready. So Ease 10 Nordics. So just a little bit of the history of my history with this series, right? Because it's the 10th one, obviously, for the name. But I think there's actually more than 10 of these games. I actually first started playing this in the on the Vita. Ooh. It was the one that came there. I think it was Memories of Salsetta. I think that was the name of that game. And I didn't actually finish it, but I put a ton of time into it. And now I don't know where my copy is. I actually have all of the contents of the special edition of that game, except for the actual cart itself, which is just a little bit alarming. So yeah, but then when they started coming to the Switch, I played through 8, 9, and now 10. And if you're not familiar with the E series, these are action RPGs from Falcom, Nihon Falcom, same company that does the Trail series. That if you listen to Matty, then he's obsessed with those.
Hell yeah.
But the difference is, if I'm to understand how Matty talks about these, and this is one of the reasons why I thought it'd be cool to be on with him, is that kind of compare and contrast. I've never played a Trails game, but this is the 4th East game I've played. Yeah, I know. Well, Matty, let me tell you something. I started to play the first Trails game, and then they announced the remake, and now I stopped playing the original Trails game. So
no, it makes sense. I told Brad the same thing I tell you and anyone else. I'm like, just wait for the Sky remake at this point. It's a great time to jump into the series next year.
But those games seem to tell a comprehensive story in succession. Yes. So each game follows the previous one in timeline order. Ease 10 takes place between Ease 2 and Ease 4.
Okay.
Right. Which makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Why not? And then, so the order of this from the timeline, Ease Origin takes place 700 years before the events of the game. Then it goes Ease 1, 2, 10, 4, 3, 5, 8, 6, 7, 9. Cool?
Brilliant.
Cool. So this sees a younger Adol Kristen, who is the star of all these games except for Origins because he was not born. So he's about 17 in this game. Actually, by the timeline, which I found on the wiki for East, they actually label it as AC, I guess, for Adol Kristen time. So that's pretty cool. And he's 17 at this point. So he's a bit of a kid. Notorious, but all of these games kind of stand alone. You don't need to play any of the prior ones to understand what's going on in these. In a way, I mentioned James Bond. I kind of liken it to James Bond, where all of those games theoretically happen in some sort of timeline to the same guy, and these are just the stories about his adventures. Similarly, these are all the stories about Adol Kristen. He is an adventurer. He lives for adventure. And to the point where he's just like adventure obsessed. And the choices that he does in the game, it's just like, I want to explore this thing. And like, of course you do. That's exactly what you want to do. You always want to do this. He's constantly getting shipwrecked in all these games. A lot of them start with that. And they're based all on exploration and action gameplay, like hack and slash action RPG gameplay. The series originated with this bump system where it didn't even have an action button. You just have to run into people to attack them, and then you level up. I didn't play those games, so I don't want to say any more of it to just sound dumber than I should be or am, I guess. With the game starting, but the games that I played, you typically establish this party, and you're constantly switching in and out of these characters as you're going through. So at any point, you press a button, and then you swap to the next one. You have a party of 3 people of your characters that you have in your roster, and they all have their unique special moves. So you typically hold a button, and then that would activate one of these moves on the face buttons. And then you unlock more over time. So you're constantly switching between characters, leaning into their strengths, and to take down a bunch of enemies. It's pretty fast, fluid. You're not talking about very precision based, but you're also not talking about like mass murder pace that you would find in a Diablo. It is pretty unique in its own way. It's like just the right level of jank and just the right level of finesse. These games were never like technologically pushing the limits. Like they kind of look a little assy at times. And this is actually a whole new engine that they have for this game. Full disclosure, I played it on Switch. My total time to finish the game, and I did a lot of it. I did all the side quests. I did 100% all the areas. You have of the like all the lands, you have your progress based on all the treasure chests found, your stones that you can find, buried treasure chests that basically adds to your completion rate. I didn't do all that, but I did all the side quests, and I'd say I was a little like close to 90% of everything seen in the game by the time I finished. And that was 40 hours and 50 minutes and 34 seconds because that's what it said on the save file.
Tighter than I expected.
This game, if I played it on PS5, probably would have been about 3 hours less than that because the load times on Switch are a bit egregious at times. But these games never outstay their welcome. I think this is probably the longest one of what I've played. And yeah, the difference between this game, though, from a combat standpoint is you only have 2 party members. It's just Adol and Karja. And at first I was like, well, who's going to be my next party member? I'm meeting all these people. And I'm like, all right, so it's going to be this person. It's going to be that person. Like you play any JRPG and the people who have more attention to detail than the other characters, right. Well, they might be a party member. But no, it's actually just you and Karja who are actually like tethered by this magical rope thing. And that kind of keeps you two together all the time. And you're switching between the two. So you can build up these characters in their, as you level up, all their stats go up. But there's really two attack attributes, one being attack, one being or strength, one being break. So some enemies will have shield. So you use break, get rid of the shield, and then you go to attack. So Karja became the break character for me, and Adol became the attack character for me, which is they kind of push you in that direction. So there's a lot of false choice in the way that you build up your characters. So you'll constantly unlock new equipment, but it's like Final Fantasy 16, right? Where all of you get one and that's clearly better than the one you had before. There's no downside in using the new one, and you always have enough money to get the new powerful weapon and you upgrade it, and then you find the next one, rinse and repeat. Same thing for armor. You have a skill tree of sorts, which is a bunch of this chain of orbs for each of them, and you slot in these orbs to boost some of their stats. And you could swap them out at any point, But, same thing. I boosted, I kind of balanced out the ones that would up their defense and luck stats, and then I would put all the break stuff into Karja and the attack stuff into Adel. And that kind of made the game breezy for me. I didn't really have many issues with it. It's not a difficult game, but it's still a ton of fun. Using all the combat abilities, they're super satisfying. They have as you use them more, you master them, which could then unlock new ones. So you always kind of have an incentive to use these different abilities. And then you have these pairing abilities. So you could attack together by holding the button. Oh, the buttons, by the way. I was contorting my hands in all sorts of weird ways. I did not like the default control system, but because there's a control system for every different part of the game, I probably spent a good 20 minutes of my first 5 hours just constantly changing controls to get to my liking. And I'm still 40 hours in, not 100% sure I liked my choices. I probably should have just kept it to default and rolled with it, right? It's like the first time you ever had the attack button on the right bumper, and you're just like, well, this is going to suck. And then it just becomes second nature. You're like, fine, whatever. It's not that bad, but I'm just saying it took a little bit of muscle memory to the point where I was doing some things I didn't really want to do at some points, but that's perfectly fine. But that's a lot of a description of what the on-land gameplay is, because this game with Nordics there's a whole nother component to it, right? There's a whole ocean to explore, very Wind Waker-esque. And you have the ship, and your ship is comprised of crew, which you're picking up and establishing along the way. So all those people you met early on in the game, they effectively become your crew and unlock different abilities and of your boat, or unlock different shops. So that's kind of your base of operations is the Sandros, your ship. And it's very cool. It's super satisfying. The supporting cast is awesome. Karja is a phenomenal character. Adel is just this happy-go-lucky, cheerful guy. I saw somebody, because I was just looking at the Reddit after I beat the game and seeing what people thought. And this one about 9 came up, and they're like, yeah, Adel didn't really change in this game. He doesn't have a journey as a character. And I'm thinking what the next guy writes, which is, yeah, that's every East game. He's just this same guy. Yeah, he's just this super positive, nice guy who has a positive impact on everybody and then just moves on to the next adventure. That's his character. So it's more about the supporting cast, and Karja being the sole supporting character, I think works better than any of the parties I've seen in previous games.
Oh,
she's awesome. And to get back to the ship combat, I guess I go back to thinking what's the best version of this game on the ship, and it's probably Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, right? That's the one, right? If you're going to be attacking guys on ship. But just like everything else East does, this is the East filter on that, which is very simple, very straightforward. You have your basic attack, you have your special attack, and then you have all these other special abilities mapped to the other buttons. But it's not the most solid feeling thing, but it is still fun when you hit people with these spear attacks and you get all of a sudden there's ships with break, and then sometimes you have to board a ship, and then that leads to a melee fight on the deck of the ship, and that's pretty cool. When I think about kind of the presentation aspects of it, it also carries on when the ship is not great looking. You only ever see your character at the helm. Nobody else is on the ship. Nobody's on the top. So it's just very vacant. The ocean looks terrible. This is PS3 ass level, all of the environments
experience truly.
Yeah. They definitely leveled up on the character models. Character models in this game look awesome. And I looked at some of the footage of PS5 to compare. PS5 looks way better, but even in the characters, which look great on Switch, they look even better. 30 on Switch, 30 FPS. Didn't have a problem with that. I played the last 2 games where people those played like shit, but that's fine. I still had a great time. But yeah, everything just kind of comes together. There's this addictive loop to everything where once you get the ability to scan and find all these buried treasures, I wanted to find all the buried treasures. The only reason I wasn't at 100% because I didn't have that ability before and I didn't want to go back. The combat was super fun, mastering all these abilities. It's like, I mastered this. Okay, well, which one didn't I master? Time to use that next ability. And you get some crazy OP abilities that like screen clear these guys and just like whipping a bunch of blades around you as Adel. And I didn't even mention like you could counter and then trigger this like pretty quick reaction, and it's satisfying every single time. It triggers this little cutscene, not so dissimilar from the Tales of Arise. You know, you had like those joint co-op attacks, and they'd like say a little thing and do a cool animation where it's just super satisfying. You get that perfect parry, you jump in with the attack. It's not meant to be punishing like a Sekiro style parry or Soul style, but you still get that same level of satisfaction just by the presentation alone and just the joy of the game. You know, the joy of the characters, the fun of it, the lightheartedness. And I think that's what comes with all of these games. And yeah, that just led to a pretty awesome experience. So there's definitely some downsides. Like I said, visually, it's kind of whatever, PS2-ass game, but it's fun. Like, I played a lot of Ni no Kuni again last May, or maybe 2 years ago. I played through it on PS3, absolutely loved it. And it's funny, you think about that game, you're like, well, that game looks way better than this.
Right.
Art
And that was on
style is
PS3.
like so important, and I feel no one
Totally.
recognizes it until they play like an ugly game. They're like, oh wow, yeah, like trying to make everything photorealistic is not a good idea.
Yeah. But what makes it a little bit worse here is a lot of the islands that you land on are very samey. The last environment you go to in the game is awesome, and you're like, oh, you have all these cool ideas, but you know, they're only here some of the time.
Right.
And yeah, people love the music. People love the music in the game. So I'll say that the music has some great tracks that I liked as well. Here's the problem. When I was playing the game, I was actually thinking in my head about Xenoblade Chronicles music. And I was like, this would be more fitting, but that's not the style of Ys. Ys is more like rock and electric guitar. And there's some great tracks in there, but I was like, man, there's just some epic moments where I wanted to feel more of that orchestral style, but not the style of Ys. So I don't consider that a knock. And some people absolutely love the music. So that's more of I mean, all of this is subjective, right? When you're talking about games, reviewing games. Adel talks more in this game than he's ever spoken before. And every time he finds a new treasure chest and picks it up and it's buried, he'll say it in this really annoying, didn't expect this here voice, which I hated. But here's the fun part. You can switch at any point to Karja, and then she'll say that same line, and it's less grating. But there are some voice lines that it actually delivers, and I feel like this is a preview for whenever Link is going to speak. If he ever speaks,
I know, yeah.
Buckle up. It's not going to be far removed from this guy.
I know. I mean, yeah.
So
Zelda's just not good already, so.
Yeah, so looking through my notes here, let's see. Oh, there's some silly stuff that East does. There's a bunch of, it takes from real world places and then puts their own spin on it. So Roman Empire is really the Roman Empire with a U. There's these are the Nordics, but they actually they call themselves Normans. And
Normans.
Oh, it gets better, because my third example is they don't go to Valhalla, they go to Walhalla.
Oh my god, that's incredible.
Walhalla, that's bad, bro. There's so much better writers than that too. What the fuck?
but it's like so easy, and that kind of adds again to the charm. There's just a lightheartedness, silliness to it. But that was the one where I said, all right, you've gone too far. You've gone too far with Walhalla. So that's awesome. But it's great. There's a couple like little things here and there. There's some things that I wish would have been a little better. There's these raids in the game, which you're ranked on a letter grade up to S, but you don't know what the requirements are to hit SR.
Oh,
and I got S in all of them except for one, which I got an A. And I was just looking. I'm like, well, how do I get the S? And then I thought, it doesn't matter. I'm never playing this raid again. And then I just carried on with the game. And then sometimes like you have these potions that could upgrade your stats, like defense, break, whatever. But when you choose which character gets it, you don't actually see the value of the stat that you're upgrading. So little thing that bothered me. Yeah. And again, the load times on Switch. It's the cost of being able to play portably, which I did a lot. So still worth it. Highly recommended if Switch is where you play and you want to play it portably, great. But I also did not expect how much I was going to really get sucked into this game and addicted to it and play it at home. So I'm thinking when Ease 11 comes out, probably going to play that on an actual like console, on an actual like PS5 or
Xbox
Series or whatever the hell else is out.
Is this on Xbox
at that point? No.
Oh,
I don't think so.
Falcom does not have an Xbox present yet.
No, not yet.
It's not present.
But it's on PC, right? They do as well there.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, that's true. I think it is. Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds about right. But yeah, Ease 10 Nordics, highly recommend it.
All right. So, Jason, let's say, okay, I've played a little bit of Ease 8. I remember on Vita, I believe, at the time. And that was the only one I've played. I remember just thinking, I'm like, it's okay at the time.
Yeah.
Where would be a good place to start for the series, do you think?
I've only started like one behind that, right?
Okay.
That's my starting point, and I love these kind of games. I keep looking at the past and saying maybe I try the first one, see what this bump system's all about, because they say it still holds up. It's just balancing against everything else, and when I'm going to play it and where I'm going to play it. So maybe in time I couldn't say, but people love 8. People think 8 is the best, and people talk a little slander about 9, but I really, really like 9 and kind of the diversity of the cast, because you had like these transforming abilities. You went by the Crimson Prince, which is kind of cool. It was awesome. And even though it ran like ass on the Switch, I still had a great time playing it. And I loved the cast of characters. And I thought this city environment was cool with all the verticality they added. So I thought it was a great time. What made you drop off of 8?
I don't remember. I played it like when it came out, so it's been a long time since I revisited it. I just remember thinking at the time it wasn't anything special, not bad or anything like that at the time when I was playing it, but I just remember like, it's not doing enough to hook me in to keep going, I guess.
Yeah. 8 seemed like, from what I remember, it just seemed like a little bit more samey than 9 was. But I'm using this was 6 years ago now, 7 years ago.
Yeah.
But you also played it on Vita, so that you're probably experiencing that the same way I'm experiencing 9 on Switch, 10 on Switch, which is maybe this isn't the best way to play the game.
Maybe, yeah.
So that could have made it a little bit worse. But the gameplay is relatively the same when it comes to that on-foot action and moment-to-moment combat. Like, you have those abilities that you're leveling up and constantly building. You have the party system. So it really depends on what the weaknesses are. If you like the idea of this naval adventure, then that could be the thing that pushes you over the edge and maybe checks out 10, and you get those higher production values with more emotive characters. You're going to get more of this kind of anime experience than you would have in the others, because the presentation is so much better. I also think Karja is a better character than anyone else in the series. So maybe that helps put you over the edge if you're more story driven.
Yeah, I guess. Do you feel lost, I guess, if you're playing, like a sequel? Like if I hop into Ease 10 or whatever, will I feel lost? Like I'm missing a ton of stuff, like trails, maybe I probably would.
It's the opposite, right? Because 10 takes place before all of those other games in the timeline. Okay. Because it's so early, the only games you would be missing out on are 1 and 2. And I'd say, without spoiling it, it contextualizes at least one constant in all of the East games that follow. Okay. But all these games are kind of insane, because like every single game, to reinforce the James Bond likeness, like every single game, all these women are falling in love with Adel. Yeah, every single time. And you're just like, I've been with you the whole game. This is love. And the next game never even came up.
Yeah, they're just gone. Yeah.
Yeah. Really funny. They're not saying in Ease 7, but it's like, I wonder what Karja's up to right now. They're not saying, although 9 was the first game they did that, where you'd get a choice from one of your characters, from one of your friends, because there is one guy who you're always traveling with. It's Dogi, this blue-haired like buff dude, and he actually becomes a playable character in some of those previous games. And he'll sometimes say, yeah, doesn't this remind you of something? And then you'll be like, yeah, like this time at this game, at this time and this time.
Oh, interesting.
Choices are completely inconsequential in these games, which is great. I honestly think that's a good thing. I often don't like the anxiety of multiple endings in games. So it's just inconsequential choices that let me see, how am I feeling in the moment? That's cool. And just let me have fun.
Yeah, totally.
And that's what it is.
Let's see here. Kramer wrote in, "Hey boys, this one is for Jason. I've heard horror stories about the slow ship traversal in Ease 10. How bad is it really? I'm a big fan of Ease and already own 10 or Ease 10. I just won't be getting to it until early next year. Any pro tips before I start the game? Kramer, not Cosmo."
All right, can I take a wild left turn here?
Yes.
All right, I went to my buddy's bachelor party on the Delaware Water Gap. We did a canoe and camping trip for about 3 nights, 4 days, and you want to talk about outdoor activities? This is not my bag. All right, I am not a canoe guy, not a camping guy, and we're doing all the prep. When we get out there and I'm on this damn canoe, I'm like, this sucks, and all I'm thinking about is this sucks until we actually get to the first stop and we realize how far we've gone, and we went really fast in a very short period of time. So I'm like, oh, not going to be that bad. That kind of contextualized the velocity of our trip and how much we actually have to do. So there was a lot of just like sitting on a boat and just chilling and trying to catch fish, which no one was successful. Although until the end, when we saw a bear who just reached into the water and picked up a fish. So that was rude. But the point is to bring this back to East 10 is that yes, you start off kind of slow, but that's fine. It does not last long. When things start getting far, you do have more abilities. You have these jet streams that you could get into, which will rapidly recharge your boost. Your ship is constantly getting upgraded at a pretty good pace. There's fast travel. There are tons of fast travel points, so you're never really too far away from a thing you want to go to. Whenever you want to go back to an island, you could literally just fast travel right to that island, either on the shore on foot or off the shore on your boat. There's a hungry penguin at some point, and you can feed that all the fish you find. Oh, the fishing minigame is delightful. It's so basic, but it's also I did deeply enjoy the fishing in the game, and if only to feed this penguin. And so you can fast travel to the penguin. You can fast travel to literally any. You find merchant ships. You can fast travel to those. But at first, I had the same thought as I did on that canoe. I was like, man, this is gonna suck. But that feeling did not last long, and the upgrades will come fast enough. My tip would be, don't get hung up exploring too early, because then you will drag out that worst part of how fast your ship goes. The upgrades will come, and once those jet streams appear, that's when you should really start doing more of the exploration, because it'll make life way easier.
Okay, that's a good tip. Wait till you get the upgrades. All right, boys, it's time for Sort It Out on this segment. We just talk about something that's been bothering us in the game industry that needs a little sorting out. Could be a game, company, individual at a company, anything like that. Jason, it's our guest. I want to start with you.
All right, let's start here. Let's get personal from the jump. Matty.
Oh no.
Have you been to IHOP yet?
No.
Sort it out!
No.
Go to IHOP.
I hate that you heard that.
You gotta go. They're delicious. The strawberry syrup is the shit. I stand IHOP.
I've never been. I want to go because of the Xbox glasses. I don't know if that's still a promotional offer, but that's the main thing that's going to get me in the door.
Go do it. I'll meet you halfway.
What is your recommendation on the menu? Real fast.
Pancakes.
Okay.
Yeah. Although here's the thing, and I don't know if this is true or not. Apparently, they put pancake batter in the eggs. So if you don't want that, specifically ask that they don't do that.
Interesting. Weird.
Yeah, it is weird. I guess that fluffs them up more or something. My buddy told me that, and I never cared too much to check it. Because who's going to IHOP for eggs?
I don't know. I don't. I thought it was a breakfast food place, but
look, you're going to eat cake. All right, that's what you're doing. You're going to IHOP. You're eating cake soaked in syrup, and you got 4 syrups on the table. You try them all. That's what you go for. Yeah. All right. For no other purpose.
Like overly sweet? Like,
yes.
Kind of like a Cold Stone Creamer. Like you're like, that was good, but I have to really be in the mood for it. Or is there any moods good for IHOP?
Any mood, just know that, yes, it's too sweet. You're going to leave feeling like shit, but in a good way.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I was just saying. I don't think I've ever left IHOP feeling great or refreshed or anything like that. You're just fucking stuffed.
I'm really sold now, boys.
Every time you leave, you'll say that was a terrible idea. But in the moment, it's just good. Sometimes what's bad for the body is good for the soul, and that's IHOP.
Sure.
Okay.
I need to start exercising first. Then I've been off an exercise grind, so it's what's bad for my soul and my body now.
Yeah. Well, you'll
Fair
get
enough.
like 6,000 calories when you go to IHOP. So
Oh, good Lord.
settle in.
Yeah, I have. But the good news is all the calories are printed on the menu, so you have goals right there.
Okay.
Also, a pancake or two, not too bad. It's everything else.
I don't. If you're going to IHOP, you've already, I imagine, conceded. Like, I'm not really calorie counting today. I'm not really. I don't care about my health as much today, right? I imagine the mindset.
No, health is broke at IHOP. That should be the new slogan. I got two more here. The next one's a quick one. That's for me. Sorted out. The 100 line, the Last Defense Academy Special Edition just went up for pre-order. That's $100. Comes with a bunch of extra shit.
Ooh, wait, really? Hold up.
Oh, damn. Sort it out, Matty. So I'm a big Kodaka fan.
I'm really on your shit list this week.
And I'm like, man, I don't need to spend $100 to have a bunch of stuff that's just going to be thrown into a corner like all the other extra special edition stuff. But it's Kodaka, so I kind of want it.
Where is it?
Everywhere. Everywhere.
Okay.
Yeah, I got the link to Best Buy right here in my
if you don't mind, I'm about to make a bad
Post
decision.
it in the chat.
I haven't bought anyone's Christmas gifts yet, but that's okay.
Okay, here's I'll just drop that here in the chat. Okay, and then here's the last thing I'll say. I'm actually surprised. So, Matty, I know you're playing through Metaphor. Have you finished it?
I'm almost at the end. I have like 65 hours now.
Okay.
65, 70. It's funny. This is like multiple games finished in any other category, but I have all of the party members is what I'll say.
Okay. My sorted out is to games with dumb difficulty spikes at the last boss.
I have heard this is a Metaphor problem.
I love hearing Cog's passion. I could hear Cog talk about anything for hours.
Yeah. This dude could tell us anything.
That guy should be reading audiobooks. Right? It would be awesome. And while he rose to the challenge, I said no. And after trying to play this last boss, when I cruised through the last part, I was smoking everybody. I was at the point where everybody was blue or whatever, and I just hacked away. The difficulty in that game is impeccable. It is so well paced. I thought the game was great. It was phenomenal. I'm like, this is one of the best things I played this year. That last boss shows up, kicks you in the dick over and over and over again. And I was like, no. I've spent 85, 86 hours to get to this point, and now you're going to make me grind for who knows how long just to have a chance? No. If there's other sort of strategy or something that I didn't see, and you're just going to throw at me in the final moments of this 86-hour game, literally the last 1.5% of this game, no, absolutely not. That is rude. And I'm sorry. And because of that,
SMT coded. Yeah.
No, because that's the difference. SMT doesn't surprise you with a kick in the dick at the end of the game. It does it throughout the entire game.
That's a good point.
If you're going to do that, do it consistently. Right? That's all I ask. Set the tone. Don't be at the end, be like, oh, and by the way, I'm going to do a bunch of shit that you've never seen up until this point and have zero explanation for it other than this is the end and go fuck yourself. That's why. That's kind of how I saw it. I was really upset by it. I was like, this is insane. After trying for an hour, I knocked it down to story mode. Even that took longer than I expected, but still, I got through it, saw the story, and I'm just like coming down on a bit of a rage while I'm enjoying the closing parts of the story because I loved everything else of the game. I loved every single part of this game. I love the Persona series. Well, I played starting with 3, I guess. I played 3, 4, 5, Qs, played Strikers, all those games. I played Shin Megami Tensei 5. I played 4. I played all of these games. Nothing compares to this man.
Wow.
This guy is awful. He's terrible. And I mean, I'll say it, I was going to get to it later, but Reynatis also guilty, but slightly gets a pass because for some reason, and I'll talk about this more later, the true ending to the game is like free DLC. And that's where the last boss is there, where the difficulty just goes up to, for a game that was incredibly easy, did not die once. At the end, they're like, here's the hardest thing you've ever done. And I'm like, okay, I don't think so. So sort it out, guys. Like, just know what you are. Be consistent. And that's my sorted out.
Do you have another one? You said you had 3.
Yeah.
That was 3. Maddie, me, and...
I I purchased 100 lines.
Okay.
You want me to keep going? I could. Let me see.
All right, Matty, what about you? Anything that needs sorting out for you?
Yeah, I thought of one. I kind of mentioned it earlier, so I don't know if I can match Jason's energy here. I want to say sorted out character design. It's been a very interesting year for character design in games. And a friend sent me a picture of Mrs. Freeze, like side by side with like a character from Marvel Rivals. And I never thought about it in that moment. I guess I don't operate on that level of just like, let's line these up side by side and see. But then I realized I'm like, we have a superhero game at the end of the year and a superhero game at the beginning of the year. And they look like two totally different approaches. And I think you throw Concord in that mix. There's been a lot of really interesting decisions made on how characters look. And there's been much debate about how characters look. Stellar Blade was a high point in that, like, can she look this way or can't she? But I feel like the industry is at this weird crossroads where we had this moment where AAA games are being accused and in some case proven of like trying to make characters not look as good. But beyond that, just like the cool factor is missing. And when I play Marvel Rivals, I'm like, you know what excites me most about this roster is like everyone looks cool. The game has a sense of style. Like video games are cool. They're empowering. They're exciting. And when I see a character like what they did with Joker for Suicide Squad season 1, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, how, like who?
Is that wonder, just because people were making memes of you as the Joker, Matty?
Oh, yes, it did cut a little deep. Who is this guy? He's hideous. I forgot about that.
Is that true?
Yes. At least
it is true. There is a Joker meme of like me smiling and it looks good. It looks good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it definitely looks like me. But I digress. Yeah, as I proceed to call myself annoying looking. I do think this is me being objective, right? No one can take that away from me, even if it means I'm disregarding my own looks. I think some of these heroes need a cool factor. You know, if you look like me, you're doing something wrong. I'm not cool, clearly. But yeah, I just feel like character design needs to get back to the fundamentals of just like inspiring greatness. Literally, like, you know, I look at that character, it's like I want to be them. Like that is exciting, and you know, and fitting the tone of your game. Like, you know, Marvel Rivals is great because it's like a superhero game, and it looks like a comic book. Like these characters are jumping off the page at you, like the way they like outline the characters, even when you're looking at them in menu and they're slightly animated. Like it's those little things that are just, I think, really cool. It's just got a lot going for it. And I feel like style needs to be valued a little bit more in gaming. Like I feel we chase realism too much, and I get because where some of the technology is going, they think it might be eventually easier to make those types of games, but I don't know. I just don't really see that, especially don't see it being appealing to the gamer if every game kind of looks the same or tries to emulate life itself. I'm like, you know, you got to remember where we started and how important that is too. So yeah, just a little bit of a quick sorted out for character design, art style, that sort of thing, that I think it's important to inspire excitement as often as you can. And I feel like 2024 was a year we really got away from some of that. You know, I think there were some overreactions this year also, to be clear. Like people hated K. People hated, no, not this year. People hated Kay Vess from Star Wars Outlaws, and I'm not a fan of Star Wars Outlaws, but I think she looked like a character ripped straight out of like the early Star Wars movies, like the original trilogy. Like she looked like she belonged. And the game is clearly inspired by that sort of era of Star Wars movies. So I thought she fit. I feel like that was an unjust level of attacking on her versus like something that made sense, like, oh, Mrs. Freeze. Oh, your Joker, or oh, these other characters in Concord. Like those made more sense to me
in that game.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree. Art style, the extremely important in my opinion, instead of hyperrealism. I mean, hyperrealism could be very great and awesome, and it just depends on the project. Some games it's more important than others. But a great art style can carry you great places. So remember that, everybody. I don't think I have anything off the top of my head. I get this is like a very minor thing, I guess, an evergreen. It's just that game size, man. Holy moly, some of these games are humongous. I'm looking at like the Indiana Jones install size, dude. It's big, like 120 gigs or something like that. I'm just like, good lord, I'm starting to delete games off my hard drive now. I had Call of Duty on there. It was like 200 something gigabytes. I'm like, good lord. Just relax. Can we figure out something we got to do to like shrink these or something? I don't know.
I had the same reaction when I got Indie for review and I went to install it. Like my head was like 60, 70.
Yeah.
Bro, when they were like, you need to install something, you're out of space. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is a fucking little single player game. No, they're like, no, 140 gigs actually. Thank you. I'm like, y'all gotta relax. I'm with you, bro. That's a good one.
Yeah, like I don't know if it's possible or if it's just time to upgrade the hard drives. Like I don't know what else we can really do.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is now. All right, this is from Neo JD. Sorted out Lockmort. Making the boys play Overwatch 2 over Black Ops 6? What is this villainy? All right, so we've played Call of Duty for a long time. We've been playing Overwatch now. Overwatch 2 is a good game, guys. I'm sorry. I've gone through my phases with Overwatch where I don't enjoy it and stuff like that. Overwatch 2, I think, was in a pretty bad state when it came out, but is in a much better state now. They've addressed many things, particularly the heroes are free now. You don't need to get them in the battle pass anymore. So they've done good things like that, and it's a solid game. But, like, we played so much Call of Duty, man. Like, I'm burnt out on Call of Duty. I just need a break. Call of Duty is great, but you got to take a break, all right? Leave Overwatch alone. It's doing its best.
Like you said, leave Overwatch alone, but not leave Lock alone.
Leave Lock alone.
No, don't leave Lock alone. Don't leave Lock alone.
I meant to say it before. Matty had like a very fleeting Lock impression. He broke into it for probably about 3 seconds in talking about a previous game. Matty, 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10
Thank
Lock
you.
impression.
I talked to him enough.
The Lockmort impression is just, hello.
Hello.
That's the Lockmort.
It's also when he says movies. Like he anything with like it's got like a little ooh to it.
Yeah. How are you? Yeah.
I'm always delighted. I'm always
That's so true. That's how it always
goes.
goes. Hello. I'm like,
when
hey,
he's
Lock, what's going on? How are you?
Yeah. Every time, dude. Oh, good. Yeah. Lock's the man. All right. This is from Dalebun. Hey, fellas, I got to give a sort out to Machine Games with the PC specs for Indiana Jones. I understand needing a decently powered PC to play a AAA game, but a 10th gen i7 and a 2060 just to get the game even running at 1080p with low settings is absurd. And you need a minimum of 120 gigabytes of storage space to match. Sort it out. Shows an astonishing misunderstanding of the brand. I'm sorry, this is an old thing. That's an old thing I cut. But I saw Lockmore was very upset about these PC specs earlier on.
Maybe that's why the PC player count is lower, right? These specs are a little crazy for people.
Maybe because they're so high.
Yeah,
that could be it. That could be a big factor on that. I wonder, Matty.
I
haven't played it myself yet, but
I played it on PC. I was impressed by. This is, by the way, speaking to a complete weakness of mine, so I don't want to speak too confidently on it. But I will just say I thought it was kind of impressive how optimized it was just by how smooth it ran for me. And I was playing on high settings, 1440p, and like most games when I review that are like this intensive on PC, when I do that, like my PC starts to cook like big time. Like you can hear it going, but this was running pretty smooth, man. Like nice. No skips, no dips, nothing like that. Like I was, it was actually something that was so just smooth moving that I never really mentioned it in my review at all. It was like the one thing I actually kind of miss. But I feel like sometimes no news is good news when it comes to performance. If I'm not saying anything, then nothing happened. But yeah, I was impressed by it, but a lot of people seem kind of bent out of shape about it. And it's because they're always pushing the ray tracing features in this game. That's a big part of it from what I read.
You can't turn it off, I think, or something like that. Yeah. There's some stuff like that, which is strange for
PC. Todd Howard warned us all. Yeah. This guy said that Starfield was like, you're going to have to upgrade your PCs. He's doing it again. He's like, you're going to have to upgrade your PC. That's the expectation from this man.
I am amazed. I'm amazed that, people are complaining about the minimum specs when really the minimum specs of this game is like a Samsung TV. Like that's an Xbox. Just stream it. There you go. Minimum specs. No,
minimum specs
with a thud.
Over the cloud. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, just play it on the cloud. There you go. No storage space required. Get to play it on your Xbox toaster. That's great.
Have you messed around with the Xbox Cloud at all, Matty? Recently?
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great.
Cool.
Yeah,
I've heard good things about PlayStations as well recently.
Yeah.
So I'm curious how everyone's doing on that front. Interesting.
Yeah, PlayStation closed the gap significantly. Like I don't think they get enough credit this year for how great of a job they did. Like that used to be Xbox's leg up. Like, oh, they're PlayStation's going to take forever to catch up on cloud gaming and something like. I don't know about that anymore. They're like right there, man. Like, and granted, PlayStation made the deal for Azure Tech years ago. People forgot, and so they have, I think, access to. I didn't even put two and two together until they did that whole thing with the PS Portal. I was like, oh yeah, like no shit, this would be good. They're literally using like some of the same infrastructure that Microsoft's using for their cloud gaming. So this should be great for them. But yeah, I've been impressed with both sides, but Xbox was ahead for a while.
Yeah.
Not so much now.
Yeah.
I joke, yeah, but it is the cloud tech. I've played a few things on cloud, and even I'm messing around a bit with Luna because the controllers were on sale recently, so I messed around with that. And if you have the controller, the previous king was Stadia. Like that cloud tech was amazing. And Luna with that controller, it's doing a lot of the same stuff, works really well. And for a lot of people who that is your only means to play this game,
sure,
it's not the worst option. Not the worst option if you have decent internet.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. All right, boys, time for Keep It Up. The exact opposite stuff we're pleased with in the game industry. Jason, we'll start with you again.
All right, I'm gonna do some ASMR, okay?
Oh, okay.
All right, here we go. Ready? So I got this. wait, no, it gets better. Ready? Because they got one of these.
Oh.
Wait, shit. I didn't practice before, but
I was just nodding.
All right, wait, hang on. That's one. All right, a little what's going on before. Wait, even this game.
Nice.
Wow.
So what you didn't hear, what you've just heard, if you're not watching, is I've just opened 2 Switch boxes, and inside were manuals. Okay,
wow.
These are both games by NIS. Now, I also then reached in to grab my copy of Cry Machina, which I'll also reference later. And sure enough, this also had a book.
Yeah.
So keep it up, NIS. And if you're using some other distribution partner to put out these games, keep it up and keep putting manuals in your physical games, because that's awesome. If I have one criticism, it's that they also come with this, which is the warranty information. And I don't know if it's because of some sort of legal stuff, but the reason I missed it was because you open the game and the first thing you see is that, which is very normal. So you don't realize that the booklet is underneath the big white warranty card. And then you get an awesome book with character art and descriptions, like all back in the day. I could tell you all about Adol Kristin and his adventures, crazy red hair. There's Karja Balta. You can see she's awesome with her big axe, Then you learn about Karnak. And this is crazy. This is like a real throwback. This is awesome. Look at that smile on Matty.
Yeah,
he loves it.
That's good.
He's about to buy some more shit.
Yeah, I hate that one of the games you got there is like a top 5 worst game of the year for me, because I saw, I was like, damn, it was kind of sick. I might have to buy it.
Oh, no.
Dude, it's funny you bring up manuals. It really interesting is with like physical media kind of just slowly deteriorating in gaming. It seems like I was at a Target yesterday, Matty, and in the game section, I was just scoping it out. 0 physical Xbox games. They're gone.
Yeah.
I'm just like, whoa.
Yeah.
This is crazy. Like Switch obviously has the biggest selection. Then there's PlayStation, who has some, not as much as Nintendo, but I was just like, whoa, no games here, man.
Yeah, I've argued on Duke that I feel they're going too fast in the other direction now, and like your store presence still matters, and like there is marketing and just being on the shelves during the holiday season and people knowing you are a brand still. By removing yourself from that conversation when everything hasn't fully gone digital yet, I think is a mistake, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's just
that's
crazy,
why those
man.
indie player counts are low.
Yeah. All right, Matty, what about you? Anything you want to say? Keep it up to.
Yeah, keep it up to my brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Made a whole video about it, but he gave me the motherload right here.
Wow.
So pretty much what's happening is he's getting rid of a lot of his collection. He doesn't feel like selling it all. So my wife was like, well, we'll handle it. So over the last couple of weeks, he's been dropping off boxes at our place full of like games and stuff. He's like, obviously go through it. And like, if you want to pick out anything, go for it. So as I went through, he dropped off a box on Thanksgiving and it had like insane shit in it. Like it had Vita games, 3DS games, DS games, 360, Wii. I'm looking at it all right now. Sifu Vengeance editions here, the premium collection for Soul Calibur 4, which is one of my favorite fighters growing up. I got Metroid Prime Federation Force Samus Returns. I got a sealed copy of The World Ends With You. Zero Time
DS?
Dilemma. Yeah, on
Oh,
DS.
that's a great one.
Nice. Yeah.
Talking.
What else I hear? Deus Ex. There you go. Human Revolution's here. Ninja Gaiden 2, Metroid Prime Trilogy on Wii. All these complete in box, by the way.
Whoa, Metroid Prime Trilogy? That's a nice pickup.
So I pulled this all out, and I told my wife, I was like, I know this is going to be expensive, but these are games I don't have, and I want them. So I sent him a picture, and I'm like, hey, like, I want to buy these off of you. Like, how much are you thinking? And at first he's like, I was like $50. And obviously this stack I just read off to you guys, I didn't give you every single one just for the sake of time. I was just like, dude. I was like, come on. That's ridiculous.
Metroid alone.
Yeah.
Is
so
like
I tell him, I'm like, I don't know. I said, I don't know about that. This is like a lot. I said, you're giving me like more than an insane deal. Like, this is a lot of money. And he's like, actually, he's like, just keep them. He's like, I want them to go to a good home. I know you love this. Like, he's a collector too. He's like, you just have them, like, your family. Don't worry about it. Which I've done before. Like, I gave my friend a Steam Deck straight up that I paid for, like the highest tiered one. Like, I'll do that sort of stuff. But to be on the receiving end of it, I was like, holy shit, I've never actually had this happen before. So I talked to my wife. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable taking all of this for so cheap. And she's like, well, I like just give him $50 and then like we'll figure out the rest later. So I do that, and I'm gonna get him a really nice Christmas gift. But
yeah,
I mean, shout out to him for like the hookup. You know, this is like, I've never had that before where like, you know, someone just kind of passed something on to me. They're like, yeah, like, you're good, dude. Like, just take it. Like, I've never had that. And these are things that like I've been wanting to get for a while, especially the Metroid games. Like, I have 3 right here in Federation Force, Samus Returns, and Prime Hunters. I have 999 as well on DS complete in box. Brutal Legend I've never played. Gauntlet, Seven Sorrows is here. I've never played that. You know, a little one here in Halo 3 ODST. It's like super cheap, but it was cool to have that.
Yeah.
Sifu Vengeance Edition. I love Sifu. So
Sifu's great. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. It was just like a bunch. And I also got Superman 64.
Oh God.
I was wondering what that N64 game was.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. I got Superman 64 because the new Superman movie's coming out. So when I collect, sometimes I'm thinking of like future content. And of course I want to do a Remember the Superman games video for Retro Rebound. I was like, I do need like probably the most iconic one of them all. I've never played this before, but it's in perfect condition because it's literally, you can see like I'm sorry, like the camera focus is bad, but you can see how ripped the labeling is, got a sticker on. I'm like, perfect. Just how it should be, it seems. So yeah, just keep it up to my brother-in-law. That was awesome. I was really, really like, I thought it was just super sweet that he even offered to give it away for free. I was just like, that's
awesome,
insane.
man.
So I'm going to try to do right by him, get him something nice for Christmas. I had my wife text his wife and just be like, can you do some sleuthing and kind of figure out like what this man's looking for? And I'll hook him up. Surprise him.
Or just take him out to like a dynamite steak restaurant.
Take him to IHOP.
Take him to, now we're talking. There we go.
One stone. He's a bit of a homebody. He also lives in Albany, so he's not super close by. But yeah, but I was just, again, I thought it was super cool. I just want to shout him out again. I thought it was cool. Really nice of him to give me all those games.
Yeah, that's awesome. Sick. My keep it up is Grinding Gear Games, Path of Exile 2.
Yeah.
The early access just came out. People have been really happy with the game so far. Really happy. Insane Steam numbers. I've looked at some of it. It looks really great. I really want to play it. Just timing kind of thing right now. So I'm just really happy to see that team do so well. Like, talk about a studio that is just beloved by their fans. Like GGG is like one of the top. I feel like everyone just loves those guys because they're so transparent and so clear about all their stuff. Like, they did a presentation on Path of Exile 2 recently, and like kind of showing a lot of the game, and it was so well done. I think they're just a great example of like a developer out there listening to feedback, communicating with the audience. They're one of the tops, in my opinion, on that front. So shout out, boys. Well done. All right. This is from Crapton Bacard. Hey, fellas, keep it up to Jason. Every time he's on the show, he talks really passionately about a game and talks me into buying it. First Celico, then Cookie Cutter. Both games are bangers. Looking forward to seeing what he's got going, or he's going to have me spend money on next. Thanks.
Hopefully it's not his next game. That's all I'm saying, man.
We'll find out.
Yeah, we shall find out.
I'm so interested.
And also, this is from Derek Beek. I want to give a keep it up to Night Dive Studios. They just dropped The Thing Remaster, an inevitable movie for Retro Rewind, which I can't wait to play. This is on top of Dark Force Remastered, PoE'd Definitive Edition, Doom 1+2, and Killing Time Resurrected, all released in 2024. Their output is truly astonishing, and it's all superbly high quality. I genuinely don't know how they do it.
Yeah,
I also don't know how they do it. They are an impressive team, Jason. I'll say that.
Yeah, they're great, and their commitment to the keeping the original game, and it's like they have this engine called the Kex engine, which is specifically designed to do this kind of work, and it's really amazing. And of that list, I don't know how many people know what Killing Time is, but
that was new to me.
That's more of an unknown one, and it is wild. And I highly recommend people check that out because it holds up, but also in like this campy movie kind of way, because they have like real actors as like these spirits enacting, like that's how the story's told. Like you'll walk by and it'll trigger these events, and it's like these two, like it's like FMVs, but but on the game itself.
I'm looking right now.
And it's awesome. It's really cool and funky, and some of the enemy design is so weird looking. It's got the clowns. Typical, issues that you'd find with like that kind of early 90s style, find a key. And it's like, I'm always lost, but it's worth it. Definitely worth checking out. Especially like, I think they had, the high profile games like Star Wars, Dark Forces, and The Thing, of course, but this is one of the more obscure titles. They always like to do some of these obscure ones. And I actually do recommend this one just for the camp value of the narrative presentation. It's so interesting.
Yeah, this is really interesting. I'm looking at it right now.
More game recommendations from Jason that you may not have heard of.
There are Dark Forces.
Take that for what you will, because that is me playing for the home team.
Oh yeah.
I can back it up. At least Dark Forces Remastered I played, and that was really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Doom 1-2 is obviously incredible.
Of course. Classics.
Yeah. I don't know about The Thing though. Apparently this is like a cult classic. Like people love this game, but I've never heard of it. Never seen the movie, of course, naturally. So
some of the funniest reviews I've seen are about The Thing, where they're like, yeah, the game is what it is, but this remaster is awesome. It's like, well, good. Then they did a great job.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they do great work, man. They're a nice pickup.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Let's talk about Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. So I have been chipping away at this game very slowly over time, just because there's so many things to play. And also I had Yakuza Burnout for a little bit, so I needed some time off and just go at my own pace kind of thing like that. But I have been playing a little more. I think I'm 18 hours in, I would say, about now or something like that. I'm on chapter 7. I'm going to assume that's like the halfway point of the game or close to it, because these games are usually around 14 chapters, I would say. Wouldn't you say that, Jason? They're usually 14, 16.
Yeah, but the thing is, the chapter's length is so wildly different. Like the chapter that sends you to the island, it's like, well, guess what? This hour is now as long as you want it to be, because you may just play Animal Crossing for the next week.
Yeah, some are long, some are short. So it's all over the place, I suppose. But yeah.
Yeah, but there's a lot of them in there.
Even with my burnout of this series, this game is still very, very good. It's really good. It's a really awesome game. And people are like, yo, it's the best game of the year. I'm like, I get it, dude. I totally get how this could be your game of the year. It's really great turn-based elements. They've done some nice changes I liked, especially being able to move in combat. You'll probably notice that too, Jason. Like you can angle stuff a lot better, because if you do some moves, it may hit multiple targets, which is huge. Like if enemies hit each other, they hit a wall, you get bonus damage, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I've started messing around with a little bit of the jobs. So everyone starts off like their basic job, like Ichiban is the hero. It's back again from the first game. I know Matty loves Ichiban, but yeah. But I've unlocked a couple. There's like a surfer one I have that's pretty funny. Like you literally carry a surfboard around, and you just smack people. You can ride it and like do a flip, and it splashes people. It's all really clever, funny stuff like that. I guess it's one thing I really like about these games, that it is a very like traditional turn-based RPG in a lot of ways, but it's taking place in a modern setting. It's like a fantasy world like that. You're in Hawaii right now, just busting out a surfboard and surfing in the middle of the street. It's really good stuff. There's like a fire dancer kind of class like that. I haven't messed around too much with it, but there's a lot of good stuff. A lot of the characters, like Kiryu, man, is so sick in this game. I love that they incorporated his like 3 fighting styles into a turn-based RPG. You got like his, I forgot what they're called, but the yellow one's like the grapple one. So if a guy has like a defensive stance, you can grab him with that, and Kiryu will just toss him. And it'll break their guard. Super awesome. His blue one is he can do like heat actions essentially from the old games. If there's an item nearby, he can like grab a bike or something and smash guy. And the red one is like a dragon form where you can do 2 attacks. That's the one I usually use because I feel like it's really effective. Because if you knock someone down and you hit them while they're down, they'll take even more damage and stuff like that. Exploring Hawaii has been very refreshing. Like I love Kamurocho, I love Yokohama and all that kind of stuff, but getting into a completely new area is awesome, especially because it is the fish out of water scenario for Ichiban and a lot of this time. A lot of people speak Japanese, though, in Hawaii in this game. It's really funny.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up. So what's even better is that they start off, and yeah, the fish out of water, they start to be like, yeah, well, you're in America now, so people speak English. But then but slowly but surely, they just say, screw it. Everybody's Japanese now.
Yeah, everyone speaks Japanese now.
Even the white guy is who.
Exactly.
The white guy named Bryce decides to just speak Japanese and a horrible English. It's amazing.
There's like a cop in it who just speaks. He's like a total looking white dude, like a normal like guy you'd see here, like in the Midwest or something. He just speaks perfect Japanese, and it's so funny, just out of nowhere. It's great, but I think it works well with the series because the series is very serious, but it's also very chaotic and outlandish. So I don't know. They have an incredible tone they can always pull off with these games. I don't know how they do it. They're so good at it. But anyways, I'm playing the game, and there's just so much shit to do in this game, man. If you want to dig in with stuff, Jason was kind of talking about this earlier, but there's this whole island mini game where you get stranded on an island earlier on, I guess, and you wash up there. You can clean it up and make it a resort, and it turns into Animal Crossing and all this kind of stuff. And there's a crazy amount of stuff. There's like furniture, pleasing all these guests, and that's just like, hey, that's one mini game. Yakuza games like always have like a big mini game, like in 7, it was like the finance thing. I did like that so much. And there was the baseball team. I forgot which one that was. And there's the real estate, of course, the other one. So there's always these crazy mini games you can get sucked in for like 20 hours or something like that. Then there's like the bike riding one. It's like a Crazy Taxi, essentially. Where you're just riding around delivering stuff. It's just Crazy Taxi. It's really fun.
Yeah.
There's a Pokemon game in this. You beat people on the street, Matty, and you can like give them a gift. It's the presentation's so good. You like give them a gift, and Ichiban like gets on his knees and slides the box to them. And there's like a quick time event, and depending on the gift, you can recruit them or not. Sometimes they'll take it, or they'll just like kick it and walk away. But you collect these guys, Matty. You have like a team of 3, and you fight people with like essentially like a Pokemon fight, but you're using real humans. And they
I was going to say,
like
so you said guys, and I was like, wait a second.
Yes, like humans. Yes, humans. And they have like types and stuff like that. Like a light type, wind type. It's an insane amount of content in this game. It's crazy. Sega goes over, or RGG, I guess, just goes above and beyond with the amount of content they put in their games. You could spend 100 hours on this game easily, I feel like.
Yeah.
But like, I've only done a little bit. I'm not going down the rabbit hole just yet because I know it's dangerous. Like in Yakuza 0, I got the pocket racers, man, I got sucked in, and I spent way too much time doing that. It's so easy. So,
yeah.
But the characters are great. I liked a lot of the new cast. I think there's a lot more I still have to run into characters wise, but I've enjoyed my party. Some old favorites coming back from 7. I would definitely recommend playing 7 first if you haven't played it. This is very much like they all kind of connect in a lot of ways, but this is definitely a sequel to 7 big time. So recommend playing that because 7's good as well. So definitely check it out. There's also like a cool deep dungeon you can do where you go through different floors and you rescue people. It's like reminds me like a lot of old school JRPGs, and it's great because Ichiban like loves Dragon Quest canonically in the series. So he's super into all that stuff. And it's really fun. Lots of loot to get. So much crafting. This is a massive game. It's an excellent game. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm enjoying it. The story, I think the story's okay so far. There's enough to keep me going where I am interested in it. Yakuza always has those kind of mysteries so far, or in them. So I am enjoying that. I want to see where it goes. Lots of gangs, of course, involved. Lots of that good stuff. I really like how they involve some quick time in some of the boss fights. Like when you fight guys, it is turn-based. Like people are moving around, but it's turn-based actually. But during the fight, some of the boss fights, it'll cut into quick time events like a lot of the older games did. So they still keep that spirit alive there. So I'm happy to see that. Oh, and I loved just earlier on, like you can get different weapons for everybody. Like you can get like different bat for Ichiban and stuff like that, or you can get a different surfboard. But for Kiryu, you don't give him different weapons. You cannot give him better weapons. He just has his fists and that's it. I just love that little touch because he is such a legend in this universe. And it's so cool when people reference him as the dragon. If you've played all the games, you're just like, oh, that context because you know the history behind that man. But so far it's been delightful. I'm enjoying it. Can't wait to play more. Jason, I know you're a fan of the game as well. Give me some of your thoughts.
It's awesome. And I've played every Like a Dragon and Yakuza game other than the zombie game and anything they have not localized. So Kenzan, still waiting for that one. But played Ishin, played 1 through 4. I played 1 through 7, played 0, even played Kiwami 1, Kiwami 2. This is appointment gaming for me, is the Yakuza series. If one comes out, then my whole schedule of that game, like gaming schedule, becomes around that because I will not miss a Yakuza game. So this game happened to come out when I was traveling to Europe in February. February, I was basically out of the country for the entire month for various reasons. And every game up to this point played on consoles. And the thing that is, if you're not aware, this game is so incredibly well optimized that it runs phenomenally on the Steam Deck. And I traveled with this and my laptop, which has a 3070 in it. And this was like the best use case of Steam. I actually did like a little bit of a trial before of another game. It was actually Eternites of all things. That's what I played to try to understand how.
Have you beat that game or anything? Like
I did finish it. I played through the whole thing.
Is it good?
It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's okay. But I just really wanted to understand how there was like a little bit of a window. So I'm like, I'll check it out. And it let me understand how save systems work and like how to make sure the cloud transfers. So it's like, because you don't want to put, so I put 60 hours into Infinite Wealth. That's what it tells me on Steam. And I just checked. And I wanted to make sure I didn't get to like hour 40 and it's like, surprise, you're starting from the beginning. So that would suck.
Yeah.
And it was awesome, man. Like this game is so good. It's definitely the most ambitious game they did. So it does lose the plot a bit. If you start, like I can't imagine you having started and then taking a break and then coming back. There's probably a little of what's going on again, something like that. But I played it straight through the month of February. It literally says the last day I played was March 1st. So that's got to be when I finished it. And it's just a delight. And the way they do characters in this series, like there's a reason it becomes appointment gaming. There's no other series like it. And they just get you sucked in. It's a soap opera. Like the game is a soap opera. The rules of a soap opera, pretty straightforward. If somebody dies and comes back to life, it's a soap opera. And by the way, that includes, hey, that guy's back. No, twin brother. Cool. So this game does that, or pretty early on in the series, soap opera. That's established. So I just want to follow the characters and the through line. So when, Kiryu is going to come back. And when he does, it feels epic every single time. And when he runs into these people from prior entries, you're like, what are they up to? What are they up to? What are they up to? And when somebody dies who you've known for so many games, you're like, oh man, it's heartbreaking. And the way they take their time with the pacing. And that's why it kind of works with this RPG format because, you just get to live with these people, so it just builds, these amazing characters. The bad guys become like really good bad guys. The good guys become all your best friends. So that when you're at the end, it's like, oh man, I miss my friends. It's the same thing with like the Persona game, right? You build up your party, you build up the squad, and you get all these close connections. And Yakuza does that so well, especially with the last 2 games where they build up these parties. Even though they're real people, they're just the right amount of cartoon character to make every part enjoyable and just the right amount of serious to deliver high drama when they need to. There's few games that do this balancing act of drama and comedy the way the Yakuza series does. It's like almost impossible to imagine. I mean, Danganronpa, I guess I like that series for the same reason. Like it goes super goofy, and then next thing you know, somebody's like violently murdered, and you're like, oh my God. So this game does that too. Like there's a lot of moments in this game where, like you said, you're doing all this silly stuff, like you're delivering pizzas in Crazy Taxi, and then next thing you know, one of your friends is shot, and you're like, oh man, are they going to make it? Because the series is not afraid to kill people, does it a lot. And I can't say enough good things about the series. I absolutely love it, but I've been there since the beginning, since the first game on PS2, and I will be a lifelong fan. If they ever do bring Dead Souls. Is it?
Souls.
No, Dead Souls. If they ever bring Dead Souls to a modern platform, I will play that game. I owe it to my fandom of the series to be a completionist. I still have my PS3 with backwards compatibility. So if I need to actually dust that thing off and play it, I guess it was a PS3 game, but maybe I should in time. But man, good stuff. Highly recommend it. Yeah, man. I can't say enough good things about Infinite Wealth.
It
does get a little
series.
long, and that's my only real issue with it.
Yeah, it's a great series. It is a daunting series, I suppose, to look at if you're coming into it and you don't know where to start. I know that's a problem for a lot of people. Matty, you played some of 7, though, right?
I beat 7. I beat Kwame 1 and 2. Yeah.
Okay.
So I played a decent amount. I love the series.
Okay.
Just I'd say I did an okay job of approaching it. Probably should have started with 0, but did Kwame 1, then 2, then jumped into Like a Dragon because Cog was raving about it. And famously, I don't like a Dragon. I was actually just talking to some patrons about it on my server. They do like a video game club, and someone else was like ranting about Like a Dragon. I was just like, finally, I'm not alone on this. I was like, I just don't enjoy much of that game. It's story, characters, gameplay, like it's just all to me redundant. Even the mini games, I just feel like they spit on to me. I'm just like, the financing mini game is literally like forced. Like you have to do it. So yeah, that kind of killed me a little bit when it came to Yakuza. So I was like, oh, this fucking guy's the future. This is the future. I'm good. Like, just hit me up when Kiryu's back. And he came back the next game. And that's why I came at COG. I was like, oh, look what happened. I said, oh, look how many people showed up for Kiryu, right? So I do want to get into it because I know a man who raised his name, and I know one plot element about Infinite Wealth involving Kiryu, and I want to make sure I can. It's ambitious, but I want to catch up before they announce their next mainline game, only because in my head I'm like, I don't want to know the fate of all these characters through marketing, which I think takes some of the joy out of it. But really, I got to do 0, 3, 4, 5, 6. Hawaii, the pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Looks awesome.
Looks amazing. Like, I kind of want to just hop straight into that and then work backwards from there. I don't know if that's sensible. I don't know if there's a story pickup there from Infinite Wealth. I don't know, but like pirates and Yakuza and Assassin's Creed Black Flag just kind of combined really excites me. And so I'm very interested in that one, especially because I just watched Pirates of the Caribbean this year, and famously I did not like Jack Sparrow. Like, I always talk to my friends, I was like, I can't fucking stand this guy. But watch the movies, I'm like, I was wrong. This dude's great. I love Black Pearl especially. So I have this love for like a pirate adventure now, and I'm like, okay, give me this game. So I want to get into the series. It's like in my head, like my next big pilgrimage. Like, I've caught up on Trails. So like, what's my next journey? It's like, technically it's Final Fantasy 14. Like, I shouldn't get too ahead of myself, but in between I say, God, like it's like I'm still like fucking 14 in my head, I swear. But like, I would like to do all of Yakuza, especially because one of the last DDU episodes, Jason came on, talked about the Yakuza pilgrimage, right? That was a important episode that determined whether or not I would one day take that adventure.
I think,
and he still hasn't done it. So there's the outcome.
I'm a little scared. I won't lie.
Go ahead, Brett.
I think Infinite Wealth is just refined 7. It's like a way more refined version of 7, Matty. So I think it's way less tedious. I remember combat in 7 just kind of got annoying after a while.
Yeah.
And I think 8 does a way better job at keeping it interesting and less frustrating throughout the journey. So it's just way more refined in my opinion. So it's great so far.
Yeah, Infinite Wealth sounds way better. It's like I'm not like one of those people who got like tired of Kamurocho. Like, I'm actually very excited when I get back into it to just spend a shit ton of time on Kamurocho, because to me it's just like really interesting to watch a game developer just take the same environments basically and remix them for like 6 games and just annualize those releases. I'm like, this is really like, no one's really doing this. So I'm keen to get into the series whenever that is.
Yeah, whenever you got time. You got plenty to do. Let's see.
You got to go every others. You got to go like something you want to play, then play Yakuza. Then something you want to play. The fun thing
I do
is,
want to
if
play
you don't-
Yakuza. That's the thing. It's not like a gun to my head. Like I have to play something I want to play. It's like it's
I
just
was joking.
in my head. Like Trails was like my moment of like, dude, I just fucking steamrolled that series. Like that shit was so good to me. Yakuza, I don't like because in my head I'm like gun shy because I feel like, oh man, I gotta like. I remember Yakuza Kiwami 1 really well. I fucking love that game.
It's amazing.
Kiwami 2, like it wasn't really big on the story, so I'm like, do I like maybe I need to go and replay that to like appreciate it truly. Like maybe does the story build off of this? I'm like, no, that's like I can't do that.
Watch recap.
Yeah, like I can't do that. So, but I feel bad watching YouTube recaps. Like that's not my energy. So I feel like I have to replay the whole series, but I'm gonna try to fight that off and just go 0-3 and just see how it goes.
Yeah. Oh, zero
recaps 3, I should say.
All right. This is from Earthbound Ness. Hi guys, this one is for Brad. I caught up on Infinite Wealth a few months back and really enjoyed it. The RPG mechanics were greatly improved and the new Hawaii map was refreshing to explore. I'm not sure how far you were in, but I found the game's recent nomination for Best Narrative to be very surprising. At a certain point, the game splits its focus between Ichiban and Kiryu, much like Yakuza 0 did with Majima and Kiryu. I found everything in the Kiryu-focused sections to be really nostalgic and well-written, as so many moments and characters from the previous games were revisited. I also found the character work with Kiryu and his new friends to be well-handled, and it was my favorite aspect of the game. However, I found the main plot, especially the antagonist and their master plan, to be a huge letdown. The reveals were often goofy and in a convoluted, ham-fisted Yakuza way. Overall, the story really didn't hold a candle to 0, 6, Judgment, or the recent Man Who Erased His Name. In short, I'm wondering how you feel the story stacks up to the previous entries. I felt that Kiryu and most of the new characters, Tome, Chitotse, and Yamai, were well written, but the overall story disappointed me. Lastly, can we get Takayuki Kuruda a Game Award nomination for Best Performance? This guy is one of the GOATs when it comes to video game acting, and his last two performances as Kiryu deserve recognition. Thank you, and happy holidays. Yeah, he is an incredible voice actor. He's Kiryu forever. I can't have anyone else as Kiryu. Sorry. He's just too good. This is an interesting question because Jason, you finished the game. I haven't finished it yet, so I will hold full judgment back till then. What do you think about this? Do you think it's surprising they got nominated for Best Narrative?
No, because I think it's very. There's some interesting stuff in there. I think I said it before, where it's like I think they're very ambitious, and there's a lot of different threads going on. Like there's like 2 or 3 main plots happening at one time. So things can get convoluted, and I think that's where things get a little long in the tooth. And some of the explanations, like I get it. I think the biggest issue is that things are kind of simple, and the explanations are pretty simple, but it's overcome by the strength of the characters, and that's why I think it earns the spot. Is it the best narrative? I don't know, but I was pretty happy with everything the way it went, largely because of the strength of the characters, even if the plot was like, that's a weird jump to the conclusions, but the characters themselves and the performances are selling it enough to make it quality. So that's probably where I'd stand and why I think it deserves a nod. Is it my favorite story in the series? No, probably not. I think 7 is still my favorite. But this one is, it's just fun. And you get a different vibe with Ichiban than you do with Kiryu. Like it's not always so serious with him. There is a level of goofiness. So I guess I'm more trained to have more leaps in logic and jumps to conclusions, especially around him. Like he's this kind of lovable goofball who's always trying to do the right thing and always trying to encourage positivity. His first instinct is not like Kiryu, like I'm going to punch good into you. He's more like, let me just try to be a good guy first.
Yeah.
And that can lead to a lot of, interesting things that may or may not be to people's taste. But I do think the characters and the portrayals really do sell it.
Yeah. Cool.
Despite its weaknesses.
Yeah. All right. This is from Jacob Starr. I'm going to try my best to pronounce this. Melee Kalikimaka, boys. It's Hawaiian, I guess. Brad, now that you've had more time to sink your teeth into Infinite Wealth, I'm curious about your high-level thoughts. The overall game is fantastic, and I found myself more invested in the story than I usually am. Besides a few pacing issues, I love the bounce back between Ichiban and Kiryu and their respective party members. My biggest nitpick is the new offering in minigames. The standard fare is still there, shogi, mahjong, cards, etc. But the new additions are underwhelming for me. Don Doko Island was tedious and I found myself bored with progression. Crazy Delivery was fun for 2 or 3 runs, but it got old quick. My favorite was Sicko Snap, but it only has 3 courses, and that also wore its welcome. Brad and Jason, is there anything here that makes sense to you, or am I crazy? Also, Matty, you still drinking that Ichiban flavored haterade?
Absolutely. Yeah, that hasn't gone away, dude. Yeah.
I think the mini games have been fine so far. I don't know. I don't spend a ton of time with a lot of them. There's always like one big one, but the other ones are just kind of, you just do a couple or have goofy fun occasionally, like the arcade games, you know? I'm not going to spend 3 hours playing there per time. I'll play like a game around a virtual fighter or something like that. Then I just bounce off it. But what do you think, Jason? How are the mini games for you?
I thought they were great. I mean, you have all your usual staples, right? You just kind of hit upon it. The arcades are in there, so you could play all these classic arcade games, which, I mean, the entirety of Virtua Fighter 5 is in there. That's nuts.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But that's stuff that's been there in all the series, so that's not really fair. As far as the new stuff, yeah, we forgot to mention it. Pokemon Snap is in this game. That's which is a bananas thing to think about. Don Doko Island, I get it. If it's not your taste to do that kind of game, being forced to do that even once is probably the same thought Matty had on the management game. A lot of these games, they force you to do that thing to a certain point, and then it's like, okay, you come back if you want, but you don't have to. And that's usually what they do best. It's like, you're in, you're out. If you want more, it's here. If not, goodbye. And this kind of hit all the notes that I want. There was never any minigame where I was like, ugh. I thought that was going to be the case for Don Doko Island. And then that actually runs. The thing about the way it runs on the deck is that some areas run better than others. So the big open world of Hawaii kind of is the toughest to run performance-wise. So you're going to get less battery and you're going to get lower frame rates if you want to really get the most consistent performance. Don Doko Island ran phenomenally. So playing that on the deck, on the go, was incredible, if I wasn't plugged into power. So that was a really cool experience, especially on handheld, which probably raised it above what it would have been if I was just sitting at home being like, oh, man, I don't care if I need to have like a CD district or something for these guys and where are these stupid pirates coming from and what am I doing cutting down trees. Anyway, that's so I could see it, but didn't bother me. I like the Crazy Taxi game. Most of these games are not good enough to warrant a full asking price. Maybe Don Doko Island, if it's got a ton of content in there, but everything else, they serve the job. They capture the diversion. They accomplish the diversion mission, let's say.
Mm-hmm. All right, boys. Oh, one quick thing I want to bring up about the game that I love when games do, especially RPGs, is through on the map, there's certain locations you can go to and it'll relate to a character. You can find some more things out, find out more about them. Like you're buying an ice cream parlor, you learn what kind of ice cream flavor this character likes. And you build up this like meter that fills up over time just by getting to know these characters. And I love that because you unlock like battle perks for them. Like they'll do a follow-up attack in combat or something like that. And I just love that the more you get to know a character, the better they get in combat. I'm a big fan of that kind of stuff for RPGs. So shout out Yakuza or Like a Dragon, whatever it's called now. All right, let's get to the main event. Reynatis.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it, Jason.
All right. Take a seat, grab a snack. Let's have some fun. Let me start with a little bit of preamble before I get into the game. I don't know how expensive therapy is, but this is free. So sorry. Also, if I went to a therapist and said I'm playing Reynatis, they wouldn't know what I was talking about. So gentlemen, and Matty, you do. So therefore, you are here by request. I have a history of playing games like about once a year. And I realized on retrospect that I've been doing this for a while. Okay. Back in the day, I guess, 2007. No, probably, about 2007, when Modern Warfare came out, Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare came out. I played Time Shift. Okay, I don't know if you know this game, but I played it. Actually, that was a game that came out with the demo, and then I guess that demo was so poorly received, they remade the entire game, or they just redid the art style. And then that game came out, and I was like, oh, I remember playing this demo. It was all right. So I played that. I'm like, that was fun. And then I played Modern Warfare. I'm like, oh, this is amazing. Then there was about 3 years of games that came after that that Activision released alongside their Call of Duty games. they were released by Cauldron, which is a company that made a lot of the hunting games, like the Cabela games. And they were not great games. They were like these B tier first person shooters. So there was Soldier of Fortune Payback. Then they released Secret Service. Then the last one that I know of that they released was Jurassic the Hunted. And that was a ridiculous game where you time traveled and fought dinosaurs. There was one sequence where you used like a Civil War era sniper rifle to shoot a bunch of incoming dinosaurs, and you had to reload every individual shot. It took forever. It was horrible. And that was that game, but it was insane. I played through it in like 1 or 2 settings. I mentioned on the last episode, but I played through Gungrave Gore 2 years ago, which was the best PS2 game that came out that year. Mm-hmm. And then last year I picked up Cry Machina. And the reason I played Cry Machina, which is by Fury U as well, and Matty, whenever you recount your Fury U experience, you don't bring this game up. And
I have heard of it. I've not played it though.
I watched the trailer to the game and I was like, that looks awesome. I love a good character action game. And why not? I love a good character action game, and I love a good character action game on the go. So at PAX West last year, they had it on demo, and I've tried the game, and I was like, oh, this actually looks okay. It's pretty fun. And I made the decision there, I'm gonna buy this game when it comes out, and I did, full price. And what I did not expect was that while it was cool, it's like the same level over and over again. The hit detection is horrendous both ways.
Oh yeah, this game.
It's pretty complicated and obtuse with how all of the systems work. And the game is actually like 75% like a visual novel about AI lesbians, and that is basically the game. But I was oddly intrigued by this game, and I went on that whole journey, and I played through the whole thing. Despite the completely unsettling look of all characters' eyes in this game, I said, this was an interesting experience, and I'm going to go down this road. And I kept going, and it was actually a pretty solid story. Even though the gameplay was kind of weird, there was a lot of cool ideas, and I'm like, all right, this is interesting enough. Then around PAX West this year, or maybe a little earlier than that, they announced Reynatis, the latest game from NIS and Fury U. And I see this trailer, I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, hey, I remember Cry Machina. Well, they might get a little better, and I had an interesting experience with that. So maybe I should check out Reynatis. It's going to be better. Saw some previews, just some top level. I'm like, this is actually a really cool game when they played it at the show. And I was like, okay. Demo came out, played the demo. I was like, this is good enough. Let's give it a shot. I'm going to play this game. I'm going to continue my tradition of fall / winter when everybody's playing the best games of the year or whatever. I'm going to take the time to play through some other weird ass game. Let's go through this little by little because I've kind of broke this down. So visuals, they're bad. Okay, it's a bad looking game. Character models, some of them, I should say, look like PS2 models, and oftentimes people will say this looks like a PS2 game. Literally, one of the first characters you see is right out of a PS2 game. There are better looking PS2 games across the board.
Chief.
Yeah, the police chief, which has had every person in the government of Japan who shows up. They're just like, they look like they're from a different game. Yeah. And it is not of this generation or the one before or the one before that. So that's how we start. Shibuya looks actually pretty good. The rendering of Shibuya looks pretty good. There is a lack of people, but that is hand waved because of course it's all at night and there's a curfew. A little bit about the plot. So what's going on in this game? What is Reynatis? Well, Reynatis is a world where magic exists, and magic is wielded by wizards. But wizards are also like illegal, or doing magic is illegal, and it's moderated by the MEA, which is like I think that's the name of it, which is like the police force that moderates all magic usage. So you play as Marin, who's one of the characters. And this man is just trying to be the strongest wizard. That's his goal. His dad said be the strongest or something, and now he's got to do it. The other character is Sari, and she is part of the MEA. And she's out, patrolling the streets with her friends. You're in a party of 3 of each of these people, and you're going around doing magical things. How do you get magic powers? Well, you I guess, die or about to die, and then you come back and then you have magic, or you do drugs and then you have magic, or you turn into a monster. Nothing makes sense in this game story-wise, but that's irrelevant to where we're getting to. Gameplay. All right. Nothing is well explained in the game. Just about nothing in the story is well explained. The gameplay is, you just gotta have to figure it out, okay? There's the malice system and the stress system, okay? The malice system is how people perceive wizards, I think. But it goes down as you progress through the game and complete side quests sometimes, because I sometimes did a side quest and the malice didn't go down, but sometimes I did a side quest and the malice then went down. Stress is a different thing. Now that appears every time you use wizard powers and people start taking pictures. And then as that goes up, that'll raise the odds that you will be ambushed by the MEA in like an unwinnable fight. Now the problem with this system is that it literally, anytime you have a fight, you were using your powers on the street, and there's people there, at least the 2 people that were there, if any, but they just magically appear after a fight and they're taking your picture. And then the stress starts going up, and then you have to reduce your stress. How do you reduce stress? Well, you go into a hiding spot or something, which are in very inconvenient places on every map. Or to Matty made this point in his video, because yes, Matty, I watched it when you reviewed it, and then I watched it again after I finished the game so I could take, and then you could fast travel, and then your stress stops going up. Now it can go down if you go to vending machines, and you go to vending machines and then you drink some things and then your stress goes down. Cool, stress down, everything good happens immediately. It's pretty dumb. You would think the stress system would have something to do with the malice system. Like if there's less malice, less people would care. If they have less malice towards magic users, then theoretically, you could use your magic. But no, they have nothing to do with each other. One is just a threshold of what art you could find in the world to unlock new powers, which I actually like that system. Let's see here. But so I thought that was pretty cool because it gave you a nice little carrot on a stick to do side quests and things like that. But we'll get to the side quests in a second. The camera sucks. Like a lot of the time. So Shibuya is broken up into these chunks. Let's call it chunks, right? And a few of these chunks have a underpass, right? So whenever you're in these underpasses, that's when the camera is at its worst. And you go to these places a lot. So you are constantly playing with the camera that is just looking at nothing all the time in these tight corridors when it's worse. There's a whole section that's underground in the Shibuya subway, and you just can't see shit when any action's going on. It's really bad. So that happens. Let's see. Dodging. Okay. Matty, this is where
I'm so curious as to your thoughts on dodging.
This is exciting because I watched your video. I'm like, oh, he didn't get it because it works. Because 1, they explain it horribly, and 2, it's unlike any system that's ever existed in video games before.
Yeah.
Now, usually in a game like this, character action game, you hit the dodge button when somebody's about to come at you, and then you dodge out of the way before it hits. In this game, they actually freeze the frame when an attack comes, and that's when you press the dodge button.
Yeah.
Or you see a big wheel, and then when that comes, you can hold the dodge button to get a bonus, and you do like kind of a flashy dodge, which looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
exactly. You get your MP back because that's the other thing. Your MP will constantly drain, and you got to go into your normie streets before you could go back into wizard mode with enough MP. So that's how that system works. But it's weird because they tell you dodge at the right moment, but they don't tell you that they tell you what the right moment is. It's when the frame just stops. They stop the whole game to say, okay, press it now. It's like, okay, press it now. Great. It's just like a bunch of glorified QuickTime events. All right, I mentioned the last boss. Hated that guy, but that's DLC. So, that was frustrating. But
wait, the final boss is DLC?
Yeah. So there's an ending to the game, but then they had like some free content come later. So that was part of the World Ends With You tie-in, which okay. I love. Neo, The World Ends With You. That's a phenomenal game.
Amazing game.
And you want to talk? Did you play the DLC? Like that thing that's here?
This game made me tap out.
Perfect. So you want to talk about this is the weirdest mishmash because they try to get the art style of those characters from Neo, The World Ends With You in this game. and it is the funkiest looking mismatch of art styles ever, because you have like the hand-drawn pretty portraits, which are actually really nice and well done here, and then you have the the very cel-shaded style portraits from The World Ends With You, but then you have these cel-shaded models in the game, which just looks so weird. But yeah, they have these additional missions after the game, but the way the game ends makes the post-game way worse than the rest of the game, and it makes the last boss absurdly more difficult than it needs to be. And I can't tell you without spoiling it, and there may be one person who hears this diatribe and is like, you know what, I do want to play that. How dare you spoil that for me? And I don't want to take that risk. So for the story, though, I don't know if I understood it, but I actually really liked the characters. I thought the characters were kind of fun and endearing. Their banter was good. Marin sucks as a main character, but everybody else around him is fun, and his presence makes them more fun because they're constantly kind of talking shit about him the whole time. Technically, this game feels like it's held together by I wrote duct tape here. I meant scotch tape. The game feels like it's held together with scotch tape and bubble gum. It's real. I've never played a game that feels like it's going to crash at any given moment.
This is a term my programmer uses, so it's so funny to use that and then follow it up talking about crashing.
Yeah. So I played this on Switch, which probably didn't help. But oddly enough, it only crashed when it was docked, never crashed during handheld mode. So that's kind of a mess. You mentioned the product placement, I think, Matty. Did you mention the product placement?
Yes, I did. The Adidas, Burger King, I think, was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I loved it. I loved the product placement because it felt more like Tokyo. I wanted an Ikinari steak. Yeah. That I was kind of bummed about that. Ikinari steak, like a Yakuza game, like you play that, you see real brands. You go into a vending machine, like you see your boss, you see your Suntory drinks, you see all that stuff. So I'm like, yeah, but that didn't bother me too much. Like I said, just Ikinari steak, pepper lunch. Those are some of my favorite guilty pleasures in Japan. They used to be in New York, and then Pando shut that down, so that's unfortunate. What are you going to do? All right, weird shit, because if it wasn't weird enough, I have a specific section here for weird shit. Chats made no sense. So you're constantly playing the game and you'll get these alerts because there's text message conversations, okay? But you don't, so you see the list of who's talking on the left, right? Like you would in a group chat. But you don't know who's talking on the right. Mm-hmm. So like you might be in Marin's phone, you might be in Sari's phone, but you don't know. And there comes a point, all right, I'll spoil this. At one point, they do come together, so you have all 6 people that you could choose from. That I don't mind spoiling that. That's cool, because that happens like early on enough, right? So at that point, you're there, and you don't know who you're actually, and then you have choices, but you're not choosing the choice of Marin or Sari. You're actually choosing the choice of the response of the person you're talking to. It's very, very weird.
Yeah.
There are restaurants to refill your health, but you never actually need to do this. I've never needed to. There's restaurants all over the place, just like there's vending machines all over the place. Now, vending machines do a purpose because that's where you reduce your stress, but you never need to use health because your health is constantly full. You could go through a checkpoint and then there's one in every chunk of the map. So you could just go through there and then that'll refill your health. So you never actually need to go to the restaurant. And it's faster to run through the checkpoint because everything takes like just a little bit too long to load to the point where it's frustrating. So if you want to get health, just run through the checkpoint and then get full health instead of going to the restaurant itself. And then the last weird thing that I had here was there is one chunk of the world and then when you navigate between chunks, there is like these barriers that you go to, and then you trigger, then you hit like the A button to go between them, or maybe it's the X, who cares, whatever, you press a button and you go to the next one. There is one chunk where there is a vending machine on the other side of the threshold. And it's not like you're looking at the next chunk. No. It's just part of the same thing. So there is one vending machine that you just can't access. It's just because it's on the other side. So if you try to access it, you just get transported to the next chunk. But it doesn't make any sense why it's even outside, because there's already like 3 others on the other side. There's just a lot of weird shit going on in this game. All right. Here's my last point. This is Matty review reaction. This is what I wrote. Okay, you're right about the stress system and the cheat with fast travel. It's a really dumb system. Agree about the side quest being lame. There's the worst one is at the end where you have to, now normally in the side quest, it's always like, oh, my boyfriend cheated on me. And then you go to the boyfriend. He's like, I'm a monster. And then you fight the monster. And she's like, why'd you kill my boyfriend? And then you succeed in doing the quest. But do you typically have a checkpoint or you know where to go? In the case of the, at the end, you have to collect like these little things, but you don't know where they are. And you have to find like 12 of them. And that was brutal. So agreed, side quests are lame, but I actually do kind of like the way that worked into the malice system. I made the comment about the malice, so I just think there was a little bit off about that, the stress and malice being two different things, and how one is, it's just nothing's explained. So I agree with you that nothing's explained. Dodging isn't explained. Malice, stress, story, all of it. Things just happen. The characters just show up. Literally, your third character just shows up, and she's like, "I'm with these guys," and you're like, "Who?" And then it doesn't matter. Now you're on the team. Now you're on the squad. It's like it's all just random shit constantly happening. And I'm gonna end. And here's the part that's unfortunate. I didn't hate playing this game. I played the whole thing. I did all the side quests. I enjoyed the characters. I don't know what it was, but I was oddly compelled to continue. There's the flashiness to the battles. There's something about it, the abilities, finding the art when I was getting malice down. Like I wanted to get malice because I'd pass a piece of art, and it's like you have to have malice down to like 34. And I'm like, well, I'm at 75. I got to see what this art is and get that new ability, and then leveling it up. And the economy is so broken. You can always do everything you want to do in this game. Nothing's a challenge. It's the easiest combat until the one DLC boss at the end that's where I finally stopped playing this thing. But I actually had a decent time, but at the same time, I cannot recommend this game to anybody. This is a bad video game, okay? Reynatis is a bad game. Matty, you said that too. But this, believe it or not, is not the least amount of fun I had with the game. Not by a mile. I had fun with this game. I enjoyed it to an extent. I enjoyed the characters. I kind of wanted to see where they netted out when all was said and done. This game has a soul. There is some sort of, that's how I kind of get to it. There is some sort of that is like an invisible, a soul, I guess, is invisible in itself, but you can't see it. Everything looks bad. Everything plays bad. Nothing makes any sense. But for some reason, does this mean it's better than the sum of its parts? I don't know. How many negative numbers do you have to add to become positive? It's hard to say. But yeah, at the end of the day, I'm oddly compelled by this game and what it is. And I just really needed to talk about it. So thank you for letting me do that. I do want to, though, pose this question to you guys. Is there any game that you could think of that you enjoyed and could not, in good faith, recommend to anybody because it's really bad? Because that's Reynatis to me. I'm not mad. I spent over 20 hours with this thing. I enjoyed it.
It is short, which is a good thing. Yeah.
But man, is it rough? And I very much look forward to what Fury U comes out with next year.
Yeah, they're a really interesting company. Caligula Effect probably was the one that comes to mind for me. It's like, it's funny enough, same company, but it's like a Persona-like game. And the story is, as you described, like batshit insane. I couldn't tell you to think about it. I have dialogue on my phone saved. I'll read it to you all because I think you'll be fascinated to know what a line of dialogue in that game reads like. Hold on. I got it right here.
Oh, I took a bunch of screenshots on Switch of some of that. But my Switch is like over there. So
yeah. All right. So literally, again, just proof. I have this on my phone because I took a picture because I couldn't believe it. Fugly, turkey chin, deep sea, fish face, bow-legged, flat-footed, boob implanted, nose job, saggy-butted cyborg bitch is a line in this game. Right. So, purely fucking ridiculous. I would never recommend this game to anybody because it's like, oh yeah, like I love Persona. Like this game has social links. They don't do them well. It has turn-based combat like Persona. And that's the interesting part is like you kind of set up and strategize what everyone's going to do and they can combo together. And it's kind of like a timing-based combat system. It's really unique. It's like, as you said, Jason, like there's a soul here. And so I put like 35 hours into it. And I enjoyed it. Yeah. I couldn't tell you much about the game beyond the combat and the characters and the music. I just enjoyed, but I walked away with nothing of actual substance. Like I never walked away being like, remember that character? Like I remember that line because I remember reading going like, bro, what the fuck? That was my major takeaway. That would be that game for me. And funny enough, it's from the same company. It's why I said in my review, I was like, there are people who love For You. They just make like, it's very mean of me to say, but like they make just cheap imitations of the things you love. And because they kind of have this charm to them, I think they just draw people in. Because on paper, like Reynatis was the same as all their other games where you looked at, you went, damn, this looks kind of cool. Like, oh, I could get down with a PS3, PS2 style game. That sounds cool. And then you play it and it's worse than those games from those generations. You're like, but like, I feel like it's a sunk cost fallacy. Like that's their business model. Like you get in, you're like, there's gotta be something cool here. And you just keep going. And for me, I've played enough of their games where when I got like, I was at 15 hours. I forgot when I stopped, but I got pretty deep in Reynatis and I was just like, this fucking sucks, dude. Like this is, I made my worst games of the year list. This is number 5 for me. I was like, this game's fucking terrible. Like,
nice.
You know, it was a really bad year for games with my personal taste in mind. So there's a lot I played this year that I just disliked strongly. I think most years Reynatis would be top 3 just for reference, but yeah, this was an easy drop for me. So the combat is interesting. Did you, because I was deeply, you work in game development, so I'm curious if you were as deeply fascinated as I was thinking of the communication process that had to go down to execute this dodge system. And I don't know if it was like a miscomm or if that was their plan. But I was like, how do you pitch a dodge system that happens after the attack has occurred and that you press a button after it has occurred? Like that was the thing. I was like, I just don't it felt like such a weird game in the terms of the design, because I looked into it. I was like, oh, this is the director's first ever game. It was like a first time director myself. Like I get the idea of like, oh, I can do anything. Like, oh, we could do this and this and this. And you just want to jam as much as you can in. Like, I get that, but it feels like this dude was like unchecked. And so the game has like 80,000 ideas and they just all exist on their own and nothing really comes together and feels cohesive at all. So what was your read of that dodge system, like on a design level? Because that was what deeply fascinated me. I was like, I don't get how you communicate this. Like, I don't get how you pitch this idea, like how this is like the idea on the table. It felt like he said, make a perfect dodge system. And they broke down what that was. And the programmer like did this. He's like, this is the best I got. Like, sorry, dude. Like we have to release this game in 3 months now. So yeah, we have to make do with what we got. Because the game itself, as you mentioned, doesn't explain how to engage with it. So it's like they themselves have no fucking idea. Like it was unbelievable to me. So what did you make of that on a design level?
Yeah. I think sometimes it's just as simple as people want to do something different. They want to try to do something different. They don't want to just do a Me Too. It's like, we don't just want to do what Bayonetta does, right? You know, we want to do our own thing. And here's a unique way we could do it. We give like a bunch of, keys, because there's actually 2 ways to dodge, right? Like sometimes you get the wheel, sometimes you don't. If you're in close proximity, you get that wheel where you hold it and dodge and move. But the timing is so forgiving and easy. But actually, when you're further away and you're taking a barrage of bullets, it is easy to get hit. And there are some fights that are legitimately challenging in the game, but they're rare. It's like it's specific boss fights. And that's like when it feels like the appropriate challenge level, other than, again, the last one, which just breaks you. But yeah, I think sometimes just they want to do something different. And when you have these, I think you mentioned in your video, I didn't know that, but there's the younger directors, these younger guys who like want to go for something, I think these guys just want to make their own mark and try to find the next new thing. You see a lot of innovation coming from indie development and smaller teams. So, there's a chance that this could have hit, right? And they're like, oh, we got this cool idea for a dodge system. Because the one cool thing that this has is that by doing that, all of a sudden, when you get that perfect dodge and you finish the wheel and you do that cool like spin away, and then you transform and then go in and then start using your attack as a wizard. First of all, they shouldn't have called them wizards. That's ridiculous. Anytime somebody says the word wizard, I'm like, no, that ain't it. But it's a cool effect. Like there is some cool satisfaction, and that could be one of the hooks that kept me involved, which is that dodge to seeing that bar fill up, to then transforming and then just laying in with this awesome attack. Like that was a pretty cool feeling, and they made it really accessible. So I don't think it was that complicated. I just think that I don't know if it was a localization problem or if they just didn't know how to explain this thing that was new. And to your point, like time-wise, they probably throw these things together fast. I can't imagine this game was that expensive to make. And that also, I think, adds to if it's not because it's fun, it's not because it's good, going to that soul, it's interesting. Like the game itself is just interesting the whole time.
What did you think about the MP system and how I hated that choice. Like, I really did not get down with the idea that if you're, because that's what made me hate the dodge system, is I'm like, well, if I perfect dodge and I time it out well, it restores my MP. But there was times in the game where you would run out and just have to wait for it to restore. And I just didn't like that. I'm like, an action game that's telling me to stop fighting. It worked better when you got more party members, because when you ran out, you could swap and they would just recover in the background. That was good. I was like, okay, this starts to feel right. But in those early goings where you're just running out of MP, and if you fuck up a dodge, you're like, oh, like that's it. I'm just out of MP until this thing restores on its own. What did you think of that system?
Yeah, again, I thought it was interesting, but horribly balanced. I would have liked a way to dodge and restore some MP while I was in wizard mode, because you can't get MP when you're a wizard. You can only get it when you're in your streets. So you're constant, and some of the best attacks, which makes sense, right? You're using more MP. So that's the other problem. Like, there's one character who's completely broken. Like, he uses one attack, it doesn't use a lot of MP, and you just like screen clear everybody because he uses these guns and you get like this electrical attack. But yeah, I think it was fine, especially since, like, you know, the way the dodge system works was kind of cool, but it felt kind of random with how much MP I was getting at any given point. And the fact that I just felt more helpless defensively when I was in wizard form, it just seemed like it could have been a little bit better. But yeah, I agree, because there were some points where you're like, oh man, I just want to keep fighting. Like, let me just keep doing the fighting
I
thing.
literally think if the game actually embraced mindless action combat, if you will, it would have been so much better for it. Like,
probably,
you know, it would have perfectly slotted into that guilty pleasure thing. But those two mechanics to me just break the whole experience, where I'm just like, this is so unenjoyable to play. And then you throw in those other like actual problems, like the camera. It's like, that 1v3 fight was where I started. It's funny, it took you a while to lose your mind, because to me, that 1v3 fight where you're as Marin in the beginning of the game and you're fighting all the MEA agents, I'm like, this is not only terrible because the dodging system is awful, but I just get banged against a wall after, and the camera, like, I literally have it in my footage, you just see like the camera doesn't know what to do, which I get. I'm like, I'm against the wall. And they try their best, they make the environments open, but like when you're getting shoved by three characters, it's like, what else can you do? So yeah, like, I just that was an experience that was just really insightful, and just seeing how like the decisions that you make along the way can just collapse upon each other. Like, it's not just one, but like three that combine and just ruin the combat for me.
Yeah. Let me tell you about the worst game I've ever played.
Let's hear
It's a game called Pulse Racer. I believe it was an Xbox exclusive. I don't know if you know about this. It was and I thought about this game a little bit with the way that this handles the magic system, because, you know, the Pulse Racer is a futuristic racing game, right? And there's a constant heartbeat. But if you go too fast, you have a heart attack. Your guy just like keels over the top, and then he has to come back to life, and then you go. So it's like fighting against it. Literally, they are punishing you for engaging in the best mechanic. And I was thinking about that a little bit with this game, because to your point, when you're most engaged in the combat, sometimes it just pull the rug under you. But because of that dodge system and how they kind of keep you on your toes, it wasn't too bad. But it also came down to which enemies I was fighting, because there's an awful enemy in this game with shields. It has a shield and it teleports, and the only way to break the shield is to do one of the like the close by dodge, and then you dodge it, and then the shield breaks away. Then you can attack it. There's no other way to attack this enemy. So then, if it teleports, sometimes you'll break it, then it teleports away. The shield's back, so you don't have time to do it. So that thing sucked. But yeah, I was thinking about the Pulse Racer just because that's another game that kind of fights against itself, but to an extreme degree, the worst I've ever seen. But the other thing about this game, when I've said I don't think I'm having fun, or it felt like more tedious than everything else, was when you were outside of Tokyo and you were in these like forest areas. That took a page out of Cry Machina, because Cry Machina had basically 2 or 3 environments that are reused over and over and over again. This was used over and over and over again with zero level design. It was just like,
they literally
dead end, go here.
They opened the game with you walking through it. I'm like, okay, interesting. And then after you go to the end of it, they're like, damn, we got to get something to get through this door. And so the second dungeon in the game is literally running back the same way you just came. I'm like, that's where you could just feel like it's practically a developer like streaming. You're like, no budget. We had like nothing. Like we made these levels. This is all we had. And I'm like, I'm forgiving of it and I get it, but it doesn't make it okay. It's like, it's just fun.
But what makes it worse is that you find out that they're connected through various portals in Shibuya.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So there will be an objective. You'll follow the market. You go through one. Then you run through this forest thing for like 15 minutes. And then there's the thing. Then there's another portal. And you pop right back out in Shibuya. I'm like, why didn't I just go through this portal? Why didn't you tell me to come here?
Yep.
This game's a mess. I enjoyed it. Nobody buy
it. Yeah. I wanted to like this game. I put the demo. I was like, man.
Yeah.
Because like Tetsuya Nomura, the guy was like a huge fanboy. And I was like, oh, this guy's clearly imitating like Versus 13 and World Ends With You and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, could be something here.
Yeah, like who try? That's what I was excited about. I think so many people is like, who tries that? No one tries to be like a Kingdom Hearts or like a Versus 13 or like a Tetsuya Nomura. Like really, you don't see that outside of Nomura himself. So to see a game actually say like, oh no, like we're gonna, and not only that, but we're gonna get like the handshake from them in partnering up with them and getting the World Ends With You back on screens like one more time, probably possibly the last time we ever see it. I was like, damn, probably. Square Enix must have some faith here. It's what brought the attention there. The Yoko Shimomura was composing. I'm like, this might be the Furyu game that changes it all. We kind of did. It was just for the worse, you know, at least in my experience. But
next year, bring it on, Furyu. Whatever you got, I'm there.
Do they release the game every year? Are they kind of like Falcom in that way?
I think so. I mean, they got 2 in a row so far. Let's see here.
Okay.
Brad, what about you? Is there any game that you could think of that like, you know it's bad, could not recommend it to anybody, but you actually enjoy it?
Well, I don't know how bad it is. I remember Tenchu Z on Xbox 360 was not good.
Oh, sure.
It was not a good game at all, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. I had a lot of fun. It had online, like co-op stealth missions. All bad, but I still enjoyed the game a lot. I don't know. Like I could probably think of like a lot of NES games, I guess, that are bad. Bible Adventure on NES, bad, fucking horrible. But I played it a lot as a kid because that's what I had, and I still have a fond spot for it. But it sucks ass. Don't play it.
Oh, I got another one. Sniper Elite Zombie Army. I released the first one. I remember like being so excited about that. But it's like the Sniper Elite gameplay system like tracks your heartbeat, right? If you aim in while your heart's going, like your aim is awful. So it's a zombie game, very linear, that has you like running around, but also trying to snipe. And it's like two mechanics fighting against each other. It's like you either go really slow in Sniper Elite and shoot a couple enemies along the way, or I mean, you never go like guns blazing, but this is using all of the same mechanics, except they're like, okay, this is just a third person shooter now. And it's definitely like not good. It definitely has a lot of shortcomings, but I was like, this is fun. Like I kind of like this. And I think they've made like 4 of them. So I haven't played it since the first one.
They have. Yeah. They've made a lot.
So I guess there's other people who feel that way.
To answer your question, it looks like the only year they've missed is 2020. They've been releasing a game a year since like 2014.
Wow. Okay, crazy. So we'll see them next year. We'll see what they're cooking.
Can't wait.
Let it cook a little longer, guys, this time.
No. Just the right amount of time. Give me those rough warts and all.
Yeah.
All right. Let's end the show with some questions from the audience. If you want to send a question to this show, I post a thread every Saturday calling for your submissions using the early afternoon on Pacific time. So keep an eye out. All right. This is from Nick Believe It or Belevelt. I don't know. Are there any optional things you have to do every time you replay a game? For me, one topical one would be to always do the hazard room in Sly 3. All of them, every time. I always see people in Let's Play skip it, and it comes back to bite them later because there are moves that they didn't learn in Sly 2. All 3 characters can pickpocket now. Hello? And it reduces how much coin farming you have to do later to buy everything on ThiefNet. Who knows how many games have really cool tutorials that people miss some excellent dialogue in because they're so married to just wanting to play the game. Okay, so what is some side stuff that we have to do no matter what every time we play a game? Or like replay a game?
I got one.
Okay.
It's critical. Absolutely critical. Wind Waker, wallet upgrade as soon as you can possibly do it.
Yes.
Because...
It's like almost mandatory required in that game. No.
Is it mandatory?
It's not. Well, it's not. That's a really good example because it's not actually. Well, because you have to do the charts later on.
Right. That's
And I
what I'm
think there's
getting
some
at,
of them
yeah.
that are above 99 rupees, I want to say off the top of my head, but probably not the max upgrade, though. You probably
Right.
don't have to max it. But you
Yeah, there's
probably
multiple
get,
upgrades, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
But
There's
yeah,
that,
yeah.
and then I don't know if this counts, but because it's not an optional quest or anything, I just do it even though you don't have to. But whenever playing Mega Man, have to jump into a boss and just kind of suspend in
Oh,
midair
the
as you
door?
get.
Yeah.
Oh,
The
yeah.
door transfer. Yeah, of course.
It has nothing. It is absolutely not required, but it's absolutely essential that you do that.
Those are good examples. Yeah. Maddie, what about you? Anything you can think of?
I was like tossing around on this one. I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer for this one that I can think of at the top of my head. Like optional things I have to do every time I replay a game. That's a trick, like a replay. Like, what am I doing? I guess I would go to Knights of the Old Republic. Like, I always steal the Sith armor. It's not even that good. But there's a glitch you can do where you can put the Sith armor on Karth before you bring it to one of the swoop gangs. And when you put it on him and you remove him as party, the game still registers you have the Sith armor, and so you'll trade it with this swoop gang, and you'll still keep the armor, but he'll give you the pass key to get to the Undercity. And it's armor that like you literally immediately out level. Like you don't like right when you get into the Undercity, you can just buy like the Achani light armor and stuff. Like you don't really need to keep it. But I always do this glitch just because I can. I'm like, I can keep this armor that's supposed to be temporary. You're not really supposed to have it longer. And it always makes me imagine in my head that like imagine KOTOR with like a disguise system where I can wear this armor and like sneak by. It's more immersive in that way. But that's something I always do. That would be, it's technically not an optional thing in the game. It's literally a glitch because technically you're supposed to lose the item, but I never do. Never ever, whenever I replay KOTOR, do I do that.
One I always do is anytime I replay Ocarina of Time, which is like once every 2 years, maybe, always the big Goron sword quest. Always.
Oh, yeah.
I have to get it.
Hell yeah.
I have to get it. It's not required, but I need to get that big chunky sword, do double damage at all times.
Yeah.
It's a must for me. All right. It's from Nick View. Howdy, Summon Slitties. I'm back to give you guys an update. About a month ago, I asked for advice on how to get into turn-based games, and you guys, Brad, Matty, and Locke, gave me tons of suggestions. I ended up deciding on Baldur's Gate 3, and after 168 hours, I guess you could say I liked it.
Nice.
The story was fantastic, and player freedom added to it substantially. Basically, I echo what everyone else has been saying about Baldur's Gate 3 for the past year. But how was the turn-based aspect? How did I fare? Still not a huge fan of it. Maybe that will come with more exposure, but playing a turn-based game in a laid-back way really helps. When I want to be fully engaged in a game, I play something in real time. If I want to chill and relax and play something, I'll do turn-based. It's like chess, and I dig it. Yeah. Thanks for pulling me into turn-based and showing me the light. On to the next turn-based title. Any more suggestions? I'm thinking of something that will help ease me into even more. Maybe Sea of Stars? Would love to hear your thoughts. All right. This is good.
Well, first off, you're not going to do that. Yeah, we're not going to do Sea of Stars, Nick.
No, I don't think Sea of Stars. Sea of Stars is fine, but not for like getting back.
I think Sea of Stars will ruin turn-based games for you. I just see too many people complain about the combat. I like Sea of Stars, but I just see too many people having like hit or miss.
They tweaked some stuff recently, like a big patch.
Yeah,
but the beginning of that game is slow, so maybe not.
Yeah,
there's better games to play.
I feel like that will work for you when you have an appreciation for things, and then you go back for that classic vibe, right?
Yes,
like
100%.
I'm gonna throw. I'm curious, you guys agree? I want to throw Nick into the deep end a little bit. You know, faring with Baldur's Gate 3 as your first time in turn-based is tough, right? This is a very difficult game. You know, enemies hit like a freight train early on. As your build gets better, it gets easier. That's the progression curve there. I'm going to throw XCOM his way. I feel like XCOM, that kind of mixture of like, you want something that really pulls you in. That mixture of like the clock is ticking, that base management, the permadeath, the care you have for your like soldiers on the battlefield, and that relationship you kind of develop with them as the player, and you can name them and give them their own bios and the upgrades, like having your favorite soldier. Like I feel like this might work for you, Nick. You know, I think of COG, and if you listen to COG at all talk about XCOM, you'll hear him rant and rave about just how great he thinks it is. So I would throw that your way. I think XCOM is really good. That is where I started to really get, because I went my turn-based adventure is interesting. Is it technically, it started with Pokemon and I loved it, but and even like Battle Network, like there were forms of turn-based I was playing. But if I was saying I'm cognizant, I'm loving turn-based, it actually started with 13-2, Final Fantasy 13-2, and then I went to XCOM Enemy Unknown. And XCOM Enemy Unknown is where I was like, oh fuck yeah, like this is really like really awesome, really satisfying, because the objectives on the map, at least in that game, like you have to capture an alien, bring them back to base, and research them. And so it's not just like surviving encounters. There's like objectives that put you in a compromised position more times than not, that it just increased the risk. So I know you say you're looking for something that's like chill. You're like, but when you want to fully engage with the game, you'll do real time. But I want to see if I can get you into turn-based in that more engaged way. And I feel like XCOM, well, the story is anything to write home about. It's one of those games where like the stories you tell are going to be about like your squad you built and how like an encounter went down. And it's engaging in its whole own way. And if you end up really liking that, there's a lot of XCOM likes out there that you can get into. In fact, the same team that made XCOM made Marvel Midnight Suns. And while they're very different, both in difficulty and like gameplay structure and everything, there's plenty of recommendations we could follow up with you afterward. But I'm gonna throw XCOM your way. I think the easy answer is like Persona or something, but I feel like we gave that to you early on. So since you're into this style, you 168 hours. You might like turn-based a little bit more than you give yourself credit for. So I'm just throwing that out there as well. That we're gonna throw a little something difficult your way, XCOM, and see how you fare there. That would be my suggestion. Yeah. And I think XCOM has a mod where you can do co-op.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, you can look into that as well if you want to play with a buddy. Maybe you did that with Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know, but that's my suggestion. I don't want to take over too much here, but that's where I would point you.
Sure. What about you, Jason? What do you think?
Let's see. I got two suggestions. It's funny because when I think turn-based, I don't necessarily think the tactical stuff, but I guess I don't know what exactly he has in mind or what he's looking for, what platforms. Right. Let's think widest reach. Let's not assume he's a Nintendo player. Otherwise, I think Fire Emblem's very accessible and a lot of fun.
It's a good pick.
I really loved Three Houses. That grabbed me for like 60 hours or so.
We actually have a different opinion for once. I can't believe it.
Great. I know it's super easy. It's not challenging whatsoever, but I did enjoy it.
No, I'm not grilling you. I just think it's funny. We actually disagree.
Yeah, I like it though. What do you mean? I love Reynatis. You hated it. Anyway, couldn't you tell with all the love I just threw at Reynatis? Well, so I think about my own personal turn-based journey because I did not like turn-based growing up. I was all real-time. I grew up a Nintendo kid. I didn't understand Final Fantasy. I'm like, why would I just sit there and wait for somebody to attack me? This is stupid. First turn-based game I completed was Dragon Quest IX on the DS. And then I was like, oh, I like this. And one of the reasons why I liked it was because grinding on subways. That sounds a little dirtier than it sounds, but I was basically playing the game on the subway, grinding XP. And that was a great way to play the game. And then I was like, okay, it turns out I like these games. Let's jump into some classics, once I found that out. So that's when I played Chrono Trigger. I played Mario and Luigi, Bowser's Inside Story. I played, and then since then, I've played a whole bunch of other things. And now I love turn-based games. I talked a little bit about it earlier when I talked about Metaphor and how much I hated the last boss there. But what I will say, I'll give you one. I'll give you a classic one, and then I'll give you an unknown one that you guys may not know either. Classic, Chrono Trigger is amazing. It's timeless. It's great. Highly recommend it. If you're curious about Sea of Stars, I would say play Chrono Trigger. That's just my personal bet. Just it's like go back. And if you want more of it, play Sea of Stars. And there's a lot of different ways to play it. The other one that I'll say, because I was thinking I want to do something next. If you don't want something huge, you want something small. I love this game. To complete everything, just grabbed from how long to beat is 8 hours. It's a game called Jack Move. This is an indie turn-based JRPG. It's got like a bit of a cyberpunk aesthetic, completely 16-bit style, I believe. Pixel art, gorgeous pixel art. Really simple, really straightforward, but a ton of fun, really tight, great stories, wonderful characters. Jack Move. Not many people know about it, I'm sure, but I highly recommend this one. And it won't take too much of your time. If you'd want to try something that's not tactical and want more pure turn-based without going too far off the deep end, this is a good one to get your little toesies wet. And yes, I had to say it like that.
Toesies.
I'm looking at this right now. This is a great pick. Yeah, this is like nice and bite-sized, like, not overwhelming. Great pixel art. This looks really nice.
Have you played it?
No, never heard of it actually.
I highly recommend it. Really quick play. It's a good palate cleanse game.
Yeah,
put it that way.
Sure, yeah.
Which is unusual because a turn-based RPG usually is like
you had me at
hours.
Cyberpunk. For me, anything sci-fi, Cyberpunk, just flip that switch on, man.
Yeah,
it's actually on sale right now until December 19th. So on Steam, $8.
I just keep getting Matty to buy stuff. This is bad.
I want to buy this, but I'm going to make the choice not to because I know I'm at the point I know I am not going to play it. I know it.
Let's see. Recommendation from me. I think Chrono Trigger is a good one, especially if like you said, if you're interested in Sea of Stars. Chrono Trigger is what inspired Sea of Stars, and it's better. So play Chrono Trigger. So this is complicated, I guess. If you want, I think Final Fantasy VII is an important JRPG to play if you're interested in that, just from a history perspective, because it's kind of what blew up the genre in the West. In my opinion, it's still a really good game. So maybe that one, if you want to keep up with like the remake and rebirth saga going on too, you want a little more context, sure there. Modern one, I actually think Metaphor's pretty good. I noticed a lot of people playing that game for the first time, especially because there's a very lengthy demo for the game you can try out.
Yeah.
And it carries over into the full game. So maybe give that one a look. I really liked it. I want to say Final Fantasy Tactics if you want like a grid-based tactics RPG game. A little harder to get a hold of because it's not on anything modern except iOS, as far as I'm aware off the top of my head. We're still waiting for that port on something, for God's sakes. But if you want something similar to that, there's Triangle Strategy, which is really fun, in my opinion, as well, too. So, yeah. Oh, and of course, long-ass game, but Dragon Quest XI. Dragon Quest is kind of like quintessential JRPG when you think about it. Dragon Quest games are very, very cozy, I would say. Very calm and cozy. Dragon Quest XI is great. I loved it. It's a long-ass game, though, so keep that in mind. But you played 160-something of Baldur's Gate, so maybe that won't deter you. But it's probably pretty reasonably priced now as well, I would say. And I think it's a good entry point for the series, honestly. So maybe consider those. Mm-hmm. But yeah, report back to us once again. I think you've reported back to us 3 times because I tell you to every time. So get back to us again in the future. We'll see where you're at. Okay, this is from Rockhoz. What's up, Summoners? What is next from Mega Man? Matty briefly mentioned the Star Force series in his DS video, and I'd love for those games to get a collection treatment. I also would not be opposed to a new game in either an existing Mega Man franchise or an entirely new game altogether. Thanks, and keep it up, gang. All right, Mega Man. What do we want from Mega Man? I'll say I want a new X game. I want it to look like Super Nintendo, though. How they kind of did 9 and 10, like that. Just do it with X. I think that'd be great to come back as.
This shit keeps me up at night, dude. I think about Mega Man's future so much and just like why Capcom is activating everything except Mega Man. I'm like, what lever are they going to fucking pull? What lever are they going to pull? I have a crazy idea for one.
Okay.
I think an X game with time traveling would be interesting because I'd want them to do what the Messenger kind of did. You know, the Messenger had like 8-bit, 16-bit. Yeah. I think it would be really cool if Mega Man had, because they have the budget, they have the team, they have the talent to do like a mixture of like 16-bit for that classic Mega Man feel, kind of like a Sonic Generations where you have the 2D and 3D Sonic. Like you have that classic kind of original X feel. And then they also kind of channel a little bit of like what X8 was doing. Because X8 was great. I don't care what anyone says. I loved X8. That was my second game I played in the franchise when I was a kid. But I think it would just be really cool to see them do that, like, you know, represent the time travel through art and have like different play styles as well to represent all these eras of Mega Man, all these types of Mega Man. I think that would be really cool. I mean, I think what they're going to just keep doing is these collections, like Battle Network collection sold over 1 million copies, which I was so surprised by. But I was so happy to see that because like I love those games and I always felt like I was just this one person who had such a reverence for them. Like they were literally my Pokemon. I always say that. And to see that like it sold that well, that quickly, by the way, this is like an immediate thing, was awesome. So I feel like they're going to rematch. I can't decide. What do you guys think? Legends or Star Force next? I feel like Legends.
Please be Legends. Yeah. Please be Legends.
Yeah.
But I'd much rather have that.
Because I feel like their collection mantra has been like, we're going to pack all these different series into one. Like I have right here on my DS shelf I have all the Star Force games, and there's like 2 versions of each for all 3 entries. So they'll sell that whole 6 games in one, right? And they'll put the price at $60. Whereas like Legends only has 2 entries. So, there's also the incredibly underrated, under-discussed Mega Man X Command Mission. Has anyone here played that?
Oh, I know what it is. I haven't played it though. It's the PS2 turn-based game.
Yeah, it's literally Final Fantasy X meets Mega Man, and it is fucking amazing. The story's really good. Music's incredible. I was actually like working on my game, and usually when I'm working on my game, I'm either listening to game music or I put myself in like game mode completely. I was like, I'm gonna try something different. I just threw up like someone doing a no commentary playthrough of that game. I was just watching. I was like, this game is so amazing. I still love it to this day, but I would love for them to bring that back. I think that would resonate a lot with people, because a lot of people think it's not going to happen because the X collection already came back, and this was part of the X collection, if you will, like during that era of just a lot of X games. But I think they could do a standalone release because it's a big game. It's a big ass JRPG. It's really good though.
Absolutely.
Never played that one. I think that it's possible they'll do like a 3D collection, and then you get all that stuff together. But I feel like Legends on its own probably fits well, 1 and 2, with an remaster style. You guys call up Night Dive. What's up? And that'll be interesting. I love that. They don't usually do PS1 style yet. Anyway, but who knows? I don't know what they're talking about. So for me, they gotta. Absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? And Capcom seems to know this, and they are ultimately mastering their cadence of releases. They're like third-party Nintendo and how they trickle out stuff that people want. And so whatever you get, you're going to get it slowly. But I think that X has to, what I really want, I'm a huge X fan, right? Haven't played the Command Mission 1. I think that you'll probably see either a Legends remaster or something like that. But I'll tell you what I really want, and this is probably the most crazy, this is going to be insane, but I'm curious to see if you guys agree with this. I want Mega Man X4 2.
X4
which makes no sense, but X4 is my favorite Mega Man game. It's X4 is the best one. I love it. Maybe X, but 4 is the one where you can play as Zero, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
My first PlayStation I got it from a buddy of mine right when he got his PS2, and I got it for 2 reasons: Mega Man X4 and Dance Dance Revolution.
Nice priorities.
So yeah, that would be insane. But yeah, give me a new X game, or just give me something crazy. Just give Mega Man something. Give it a Colin. See what he does. He wants.
Yeah. Do you what do you think of X7? Have you played X7?
No, I haven't played X7. I have the whole collection. I was going to go through them all, but
nah, I just always like it.
Is that the 3D one?
3D one, yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
That game sucks.
Yeah. Like no, it's like the worst game I might have ever played. Like I could sit here and go on a whole fucking like 10-minute diatribe on why that game fucking blows. But I was just curious if anyone here has dove into that one.
Yeah,
because that's why they stay away from X, because they like really from 5 to 7, they made a lot of bad games. And 8, I think, was actually pretty good. And 8 was just a product of like considered a failure because like it just did not do well. There was Mega Man oversaturation at the time. 7 was so bad that people were like, we don't want this. And so they went ahead and just focused on the mainline series, right? And that's why they did Mega Man 11, which I haven't played. I don't know if the classic series is for me. I just don't like his appearance. X has such a cool factor, compared to classic Mega Man. It's just such a difference maker for me.
It's more anime. I get it.
I'll tell you what, if Furyu doesn't release a game next year, I'll play X7.
Oh my God, no. You don't need that. You don't need that in your life, bro. I'm not. No. Go play Battle Network. Like, dude, that would be great. That would be great.
No, that'll be my good time of year. I'm saying, like, I'll
Battle
play that
Network's
regardless.
old, so maybe it would be a good time of year. You don't know, but like you're diving into like, would you walk out of your house right now and just go find a pile of dog crap and step in it? Like,
no.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't. So it's like that's that's what you're doing by playing deliberately X7. If you're on that journey though, and you're going through them all, then more power to you. But if you get to the end of that one, you'll have a strong opinion on it, I think.
Fair enough.
Strong opinion.
Strong. I'm on board for X4 too, but they have to have the anime cutscenes.
Yes,
and
exactly.
The same voice actors.
Yeah,
they have to be the same.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brad. You get it.
Yeah, they gotta have all that stuff. All right. Final question is from I Wish You Would. Dear gamers with a hard R. It was a great surprise seeing Happy Console Gamer on recently. Just curious if it's possible to have other folks on from his old podcasts like Pete Dorr or Gamester81 as potential future guests. Pete and Johnny's FF11 conversations are legendary, and Gamester was filled with knowledge on consoles I've never heard of before. I think both could bring an interesting insight if summoned to the realm. Thanks for all you do, gents. Pretty much a lot of people, I'm fine with having anyone on the show pretty much. A lot of people have asked me, like Jason was on the show because he asked me if he could be on one time. I was like, yeah, sure. And now this is number 3. So a lot of that is that, but yeah, let me know who you guys want on the show. Like I personally haven't heard of any of these people besides John the Happy Console Gamer. So I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot of personalities out there I just don't know about.
Yeah.
So let me know.
I've heard of I'm always down to have. It was interesting because I heard of him because a friend, I think he did like collecting videos or something like that. And because a friend of mine watched him. And then I was at the Long Island Retro Gaming Expo and I bought a game and it was him. Like I didn't realize until I saw like the tag, he was wearing a tag. It said Pete Dorr. I was like, oh, this is like, I don't know anything about this guy, but I found him here selling games and stuff. So
that's pretty funny.
Yeah, that was interesting. Seems like a good guy though.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm down to have pretty much anyone. I just like talking to random people about games and getting different perspectives and all that stuff. So I'm all for that kind of stuff. So let me know what you guys think in the future. All right, boys, though, that's it. We're done. Another episode in the books. Matty, Jason, thank you for joining me, you guys. I appreciate it.
Of course.
Jason, we will have you on in the future, of course. We need those updates on your niche or niche games that no one's ever heard of. Good shit. The NIS, you're like the NIS man. You know it all. It's so good.
I don't actually. Like, it's just these. It's just like East is the one I keep coming back to, and then I guess these Fury fall releases.
Yes.
I don't know anything about the trails other than what.
Well, we got it covered with Matty. It's fun.
Always happy to come back. I'll tell you what I really want to come back and talk about when it comes out is that 100 line. Like, I'm going to be there.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one. We got to unite for that because you reminded me that they give it a release date too. It said like April 24th. I'm like, April. Okay. So
that's right.
I set up the pickup time. I put the reminder on. I'm like, all right, let's go. Let's go.
No, he did it. Yeah. Collector's edition.
Yep. Yeah. I dude, every outside of Raincoat and Happy. What was the other game they did that was not?
That it was
the first game they did after
release,
V3.
Right?
Yeah. Happy something club. Anyway,
I'm blanking on it.
Yeah, those two did not pick up. Raincoat I wouldn't have regretted. Raincoat was decent, but I think 100 Lines Academy, where the hell it's called, looks more in line. Like I've just been asking him, just go back to the formula, man. Like you guys tried so many times to avoid it. Just go back to the formula. And this like mixture of that like high school life with turn-based combat, I'm like, this could be great.
Yeah. This is how you get COG. This is how you get COG with the turn-based.
Because COG almost bent the knee to Danganronpa. He was like this close. He's the only dude I know who got the...
Let's be real. I followed that whole journey. I don't know, man.
I think he was close. I think because COG, I love COG, but he definitely... And I only say this because he is proud about it. Has that ego in the sense that he's like, nah, I'm too old for this shit, right? And so that was a game that he was this close. Like you finished 2 cases out of 5. You got to like something about it. He's like, nah, dude, this like isn't really for me. I'm like, I don't know. I think I told COG.
I don't get that too old for me thing from COG. It's like, isn't he a huge Marvel fan and stuff like that?
No, because we call it creepy COG at the park. Like, you know, like trench kids. Jacket. Yeah, like anything like Kitty. COG does not jive
He's playing with Marvel. You see like 5-year-olds run around.
I know.
No, they're not kids. The fact, once the kids show up in the game, even if they're all getting murdered, it's like they're still kids, you know.
COG,
and then you get,
for the hills.
There's always the weird fan servicey stuff that they throw in there. I get it. I get the weird.
It's part, those types of games and Souls like that he does not like. He respects, but he does not jive.
Out, man.
Yeah.
He's playing on his ROG Ally like this on the subway. He's like, I can't have people looking over my shoulder.
Yeah, awesome. Jason, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter/X at Jays of Doom. I'm also on Blue Sky now because I actually have been enjoying Blue Sky. So same thing, Jays of Doom. You can see me there. That's less violent shit is being shown there. So I do. It's like old Twitter now over there, which I like. Like I'm getting the content I want, which is great. But otherwise, yeah, I just got to plug the podcast, the Atari Games podcast that I do every other week. It's been getting kind of fun and silly. I've been running these silly game trivia games at the end of every episode. Last episode was just a hang with some people. So we played 2 rounds of some games. And then next episode, actually, I'm going to be talking to a bunch of guys at Night Dive about the thing. So that's been a lot of fun to do. I think we've hit the schedule this year despite some close shaves. So that's been a lot of fun. If you check it out, leave a comment on the YouTube video that just says, hey, it came from Summit Sign. That would be appreciated.
Cool. Matty, anything coming up you want to plug or anything like that?
No, we're wrapping up the year. We're doing some extra recordings this week for Duke for the holidays. I'm wrapping up my work year and looking forward to some time off. So this is, I think, my last Summit Sign for the year, man. So it's been great, Brad. I've been having so much fun podcasting with you, man. I love having you around, dude. It's good to have you as a friend. So
I want to get you on the Goaty episode we're going to do.
Yes. Sorry. Technically not my last. I'll save my heartfelt words for then. But
yes,
it's been great nonetheless.
Thank you, Matty. I appreciate that. Thank you, man. It's been great working with you guys, especially you, Matty, who I work with frequently.
Yeah.
It's been awesome.
Absolutely.
All right. Yep. We're going to be filming bulk this week. Holidays are coming up, so we're going to start grinding away on that kind of stuff. But thank you, everybody, for watching and listening. We greatly appreciate it. We'll see you next episode. Take care and goodbye. Summon Sign is a product of Last Stand Media and Collins Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is written and hosted by me, Brad Ellis. The show is produced by Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. Summon Sign, along with the rest of Last Stand's media shows, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we are grateful for your kind contribution and generosity to our independent endeavor. Thank you.